Welcome again to the S.E.M podcast. Myself, Zack Hewlett, and my co-host, Jack Bryce here. And we are so fortunate to have the amazing companionship that was Sister Lizzy Kenny, now Lizzy Dixon, and Sister Merron Roberts, now Merron Ngibombi. I hope I said it right.
You did.
So good to have you both. Thank you so much for joining us. And we've been looking forward to this for a while. It's gotten pushed, but that's okay. We're here now.
You got us. You nailed us down. It's good.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So let's start, Merron, with you. Let's have you go through, talk to us about your timeline and kind of decision to serve a mission, and then finding out you're going to Scotland. Tell us your story there.
Okay, so I had never had any plans to serve a mission growing up, although we'd had missionaries in and out of our home all of the time. I was raised in an LDS family, a large LDS family, and I was 2 years into my university degree in equal weighting of French and German, and I'd had some very, very strong promptings that I needed to go to the temple to receive my endowment. And at the time, the rules in place were that unless you were going on a mission or getting married, then you didn't go and receive your endowment. Right. And I approached my bishop and was told that, basically. And I said, well, please, would you just ask the stake president, because these promptings aren't going away. And he asked the stake president, and then the stake president and I met. And I spoke to him about these desires and feelings that were not going away, that I felt I needed. I must go to the temple to receive my endowment. And he sort of stopped me mid-flow and said, I feel you should serve a mission. And it was like this lightning bolt. I think I felt a bit like Samuel, hearing that voice from his bed, but not knowing what it was really. And as soon as he said that, I thought, of course, I need to serve. So I very quickly sort of tied up loose ends at university. I moved home and I said, I'm going on a mission. And then I think about 6 months later, I was in Scotland. Now, receiving a call to Scotland when you're fairly competent in 2 other foreign languages was a bit of a surprise. But
hang on. What other languages do you speak?
French and German.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
And a lot of people from my stake had been called to French-speaking missions around that time. And I think you notice patterns, don't you, of people going to one place for a while and then another. So I assumed I would go to a French-speaking mission, and that didn't happen. And I remember opening my call and going, oh, all right then. And people would ask me, when I told them where I was going, or they would say, well, how do you feel about that? Because, of course, they knew me. And I'd say, well, fine, really. I wasn't disappointed. I was just surprised. And I think I had enough of a testimony at that point to know that no matter where I was sent, it would be a positive experience. I can't remember when I received my call. I want to say it was around Christmas time, and then I left for the MTC in February. Is that right, Lizzy?
Yeah, I'll see those dates up. I've got them dates. I think so. I got mine on the 5th or 6th of January because the Christmas tree was still up. That's how much I remember. And then I remember from when I got the call, it was 5 weeks from that point that I was in the MTC.
It was quite quick, wasn't it? I think we were the same, and I think Lizzy and I saw each other at a young single adult dance about a week before we went. Birmingham, yeah.
I don't remember.
And I remember you had, but the only way I knew was because they'd made some kind of announcement from the stage that Lizzy Kenny's going on a mission this weekend or something, or next weekend, or whatever, whenever it was. And I saw, and of course, Lizzy and I had known each other vaguely from some young women's camps years and years previous. Mm-hmm. And so we had this like So you were at the MTC then? I can't believe you don't remember that.
I'm so sorry.
Really deep.
It's gone back. I remember.
It's really comedy.
Oh yeah, I remember. We had that vibe in the car park. So it was a Birmingham dance. Oh, that's so funny. No, I don't remember.
It was. And then we were there. We were in the MTC a week later or something, and I'm going, right, well, let's learn how to be missionaries. Yeah.
So
we never did learn. It's the moral of the story.
I think I obviously only appeared for Lizzy in Montrose some months later, but I have to say she was part of my journey from the beginning.
No, I obviously remember you from camps as well, because I remember we had those conversations as well. So I ditched my state camps to go on their state camps because they were better. So
they were. Ours were far superior.
I was like, well, they were a superior camp, so bring the goods, I'll go. Yeah.
Excellent. So that's how I kind of got to the mission. That was me. There's obviously like lots of personal stories in the meantime that happened along the way, sort of challenges. There was a small delay while I tackled some health issues and things like that. But I got there in the end, and I was most grateful to be called to Scotland. My mum's ancestry is from Scotland, and I remember when you had to write back then, old school writing, to accept your call. And I remember asking in that, just saying, if there's any chance I could go to some islands, that'd be amazing, because my mum's ancestry is from Orkney.
Oh, wow.
Oh, be careful what you ask for is all I'm going to say.
Oh man, that's too good.
So do you want me to carry on talking about my areas, or do you want me to hand over to Lizzy to talk about her call, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, let's jump to Lizzy now and have her talk about her experience and choosing to go on a mission and then getting the call.
So opposite to Merron, had been harbouring secret feelings for I don't know how long, but early childhood probably, that I wanted to go on a mission. But I just didn't speak them out very much, I don't think. But I remember whenever they talk about missions, I was like, they're talking to me. It's not just the men, I'm going. So I always remember that. But I graduated 21, and then I knew the next thing for me was a mission. And that's when I started telling people I'm thinking of going on a mission. And I got some really good positive responses. And then occasionally I got a really funny response, which was like, well, how come you've chosen to be on a mission? Have you felt inspired by God? And I was like, well, no, I want to go. I just want to go. Never mind God. I hadn't even put that in the equation. It was just me. And then there was a bunch, the sisters at that time, the girls that were going at that time, were all getting these special experiences to call them on a mission in some way. And I was hearing them, and I was like, well, I haven't had any of that. Maybe. And then there was a few of the comments that kind of was like, well, because I was dating someone, you should, the kind of little archaic kind of responses to that, and how I was dating someone, he was older than me, so I guess they were thinking about that in the equation and stuff. And so I got a few responses to suggest that, if you go and you really want to know, that you should go. And I remember being really confused by that and a little bit disheartened. And I was like, oh, right, well, what does God want me to do then? Because I wanted to go, but maybe that's not in the plan at all. And I prayed about it. I sought that out. I sought those answers out, and nothing came. And then I was at another friend who was going on her mission. I was at her farewell, and I was eating some food with a friend, and he said to me, he said, are you still thinking about going on a mission? And I said, I don't know. It's for me, if it's what God wants for me. I can't remember. I just said something really shaky and shady like that. And he was just like, what? He was just like, that's not what it says in D&C 4. And I said, well, what does it say in D&C 4? And he said, all those who have a desire are called to the work. It's your desire that calls you. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, really. Just totally hit me, because that's all I had was desire. I had nothing else. I had nothing else, just desire to go. And that was what I needed to hear, really, that was what kind of propels you and brings you to those places, was that desire. So that kind of kicked me into gear, and I was like, yeah, I'm not taking any more of these crappy comments, and I'm going on a mission, and that's that. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you submitted your paperwork and got your call, and what was your reaction when you got the call to Scotland?
So the paperwork took forever for some reason for me. Like, I don't know if like it just felt slow, and maybe it was me, maybe I was impatient, but everything felt really slow. And then the whole Christmas thing meant that, because I think I put my papers in October, end of October. Like,
Wow.
I don't think it even got to November. And then I was hearing people that got their mission calls back and they were having to wait months for visas and stuff. So I was like getting really agitated by this point. And I was like, then there was the Christmas break, of course, which slows it down. And so I was at my now husband's flat. I was down in London, and I got a phone call from my sister, I think, that the envelope had come. So I got the megabus home, which took like all day, which is like, the Brits know what the megabus is. It's a very slow, cheap bus journey. I went and got the megabus home. That was a really long journey home. And then, so it was nighttime by the time I got home. And the reason why I remember the Christmas tree is because they'd put the envelope on the Christmas tree. And so I opened that and saw Scotland. But I think by that point, I was so just needing to go on a mission. By that point, it just felt like it'd taken forever, that I skipped past Scotland and jumped straight to the date that I was going. And I went, yes. And my parents were like, what? Where is it? And I was like, I go the 16th of February. And it was like the date was more important than the where at that point. And maybe I just kind of got myself quite grounded. I was like, okay, Scotland, fine. And move on. When am I going though? That's the most, that became the most important thing. And I always remember the 16th of February on the letter. That's what I literally remember. That date is engraved in my head because I was like, 5 weeks. I'm going in 5 weeks. Brilliant. I'm out of here. So yeah, I don't remember dwelling too much on the location. My brother had gone to Ireland. There was quite a few Brits getting called to the British Isles. So I don't know. I was just ready to go. I did not want to be delayed. I think I was in a rush.
Oh, that's great. I love it. All right. Merron, let's go back to you. So talk to us. You both got home July of 06, right?
Yes. No, September.
Oh, okay. So you started February in the MTC. Did you extend your mission?
No. We did. It was September, wasn't it, Lizzy?
What was September?
When we got home.
When you got home.
I'm sure it was September.
Yeah, I think it was early September.
Yeah, it definitely was, because I remember starting back at university like within weeks of coming home from my mission. So I'm sure it was September. Okay, so my first area was Dundee, and I know there are 2 wards in Dundee, and I can't remember the 2. It was the smaller of the 2, which was
Lift
further
Road?
away from town. Yes, I think so. There you go.
Okay.
And I served there for only 6 weeks with Sister Webb, and it was her final 6 weeks of her mission. And I think, just like every missionary, maybe I should just speak for myself actually, but I had that whole getting there, and it's such a build up, isn't it? And then I arrived in this grey city with somebody who knew exactly what they were doing. And I remember lying in my bed and just going, what have I done? This is a year and a half of my life. How elders cope with the concept of 2 years is, you have some respect from me for that. But anyway, so I spent 6 weeks in Dundee, and my attitude towards it all did change during that time. I think confidence grows, doesn't it, when you get an idea of what you're doing. And I was moved then to Edinburgh, to Holcross. There were 2 sisters areas in Edinburgh at that time, where I served with Sister McGowan.
Okay.
Again, that was a really short stint for 6 weeks, and Sister McGowan was very good at teaching me and helping me sort of get on my feet with missionary work a little. However, then I think the biggest surprise of my mission came after 3 months, when I was called to move to Montrose with Sister Kenny. and we whitewashed into the area, and we were both only 3 months on our mission at that time. And it was a massive challenge for me, I think, to be so independent with the work. I think I'd relied very heavily on my experienced companions before then. And I think anybody who knows me now wouldn't think me an emotional person. But Lizzy will remember our first few weeks in Montrose being very emotional for me. And I remember we reached one day about 2 weeks in, and I said, I haven't cried today. It's a milestone. I haven't cried. And I really felt when we went to Montrose, right, get on with the work. Go and do this isn't about you anymore and making you a missionary. This is about you going and finding those people that I need you to find. And I have to say that without any kind of slight or snub to any other companions or areas that I served in, that they were my most memorable few months. And I think it certainly helped that I was serving with somebody who I already knew and trusted. And we had some fantastic, real faith-promoting experiences and very real experiences in getting to know how the Lord works with us, with me, with all of his children. And I had my first taste, really, I think, there of feeling or experiencing or having a glimpse of what Heavenly Father really feels for his children, how much he really loves them. So Sister Kenny and I served together there for, was it 3 or 4.5 months? I can't remember.
I think it was 4.5.
4.5. And then I had a further 6 weeks with Sister Malin in Montrose. She's so much fun. I remember her electrocuting me with tanks. She had these like little remote control tanks, and she'd dare me to play with her. And if she got me with her tank, it would electrocute me, and she found that hilarious. So
I played that. That was fun.
Really, you do the childish stuff that elders do as well when they're in their flats. So yeah, another 6 weeks with Sister Malin there, and then I was moved to Ayr.
Okay.
And I served there with Sister Lewis. I can't remember how long for. I'm really sorry. But a glorious time again with a sister that I truly respect and love very much. I was very, very blessed with companions throughout my mission. Whether they would count themselves blessed is a question for them. When I was in Ayr, we taught some fantastic people. A particular person comes to mind is Jimmy.
Jimmy!
This will know, and elders, because he certainly made himself known. I'm sorry if you get some feedback. I have a poorly child crying upstairs. My husband will see to her. So, gosh, I feel like I'm really trying to make my brain work hard. So where was I up to? Ayr.
Ayr,
the child who distracted me.
Right.
So I was Ayr, and I was moved out of Ayr, yes, not long after Christmas. And I went to Edinburgh, and this time to Morningside, and I served with Sister Cooper and Sister Bautista. Again, some amazing people there. I think it wasn't with Sister Cooper, but a transfer or so later, Sister Cooper was moved, and we had Sister Hogg join us. And the three of us found Gordon Stevenson, who is now Bishop in Edinburgh Ward, which is just amazing, just a wonderful experience. He actually, when I got home from my mission, he was on his mission in my home area. I was married at that point, and he came to my house for dinner, and it was all really I didn't know where to place myself. I didn't know which role I played anymore, but it was wonderful. It was a bit of a glimpse of eternity. You know, that concept of all things being eternally before the Lord and continuously before. I was like, yeah, is this what you saw? Yeah. Anyway, friends for life, truly. I think, you know, I don't want to be self-critical, but I look back in hindsight at that time in Edinburgh with Sister Baptista and Sister Hogg, and I think I got very proud. I think I knew that I had experience in the mission, and I don't think I was always the best companion because of that. I don't think I was always as patient as I should have been, and things like that. And that's a little regret for me, but I have grown from the experience, and have had friendly conversations with my companions from then since. Okay, so I still moved on from there. They moved me around a lot. They do that with problematic sisters. And moved me from there up to Shetland. I got my wish. I got to go to the islands. So at this point, I think the Vriens only had a few weeks left of their service in the mission. And I was moved up to Shetland to serve with Sister Garnham, and it was glorious and it was wonderful, and I absolutely loved my time serving with her in Shetland. But the work in Shetland was so different. Anybody who served in the islands will just know that everybody knows who you are because everybody knows everybody in the islands, and they've made up their mind almost before they meet you, and so your work turns to a lot of service. And before I went up there, President Vriens said that we needed to do some work with the ward and help to bring the ward closer, because the ward in Shetland came under mission responsibility rather than being part of a stake. So President had a different responsibility for the ward there in a different way. So we did lots of activities and met some incredible. How the members kept the church going up there, I do not know, but it was wonderful. And they have this lovely building that's a converted printer's place, I think, I remember right. But members who are doing everything, who are serving in all the callings all at once and making it work. And it was a thoroughly excellent experience serving up there. I finished my mission in Shetland, serving my final 6 weeks with Sister Georgieva from Bulgaria. We had some challenges between us. Just a personality clash, I suppose. I don't know. But again, with hindsight, and actually, this is an experience that I can bring Lizzy in on, because I remember just sort of feeling like I'd reached the end of what I could do. And I was probably feeling very sorry for myself, and made a call to the assistants, who probably didn't know what to do with what I said to them. And a few minutes later, I had a phone call from Sister Kenny, who just said, "Right, what's up?" And I explained to her the challenges that we had, and she didn't indulge my self-pity for one moment. She told me, "Right, you are at the end of your mission. You need to take everything you have learned, everything you've learned about loving people and putting the Lord first in your life and all these different things, and you need to use it." And I couldn't argue against that, and of course felt a confirmation of the Spirit that was exactly what I needed to do. And we used to have a saying between us about it. Pride, right?
Oh, sorry. Can I just interject?
Sure.
I remember that phone call, but it's funny because I don't remember what I said. So I'm going to hand that all over to God and attribute that to him.
Nice.
He did that a lot. He did that a lot with us. I feel like he did that a lot with us, and I like that. I think Sister Kenny and I were known that, it was known that we were friends. And I think a lot of what made us friends is that we could speak plainly to one another. And during the time that we served together, very often if one was not feeling good, the other would say, well, it's your pride. You need to get over your pride and stuff. And so much so that it just became a saying between us of being so proud. This isn't about you, or this isn't about your feelings. Just get over yourself.
Every now and then, though, every now and then we'd try and like get some validation from the other person, and so we'd go fishing basically for a bit of validation. And she sussed it out. She was like, "Are you fishing? Are you fishing?"
And then we kept talking about that. I was like, "Don't tell me about that fishing."
So whenever she did it to me, I was like, "I think you're fishing, Merron. I think you got to sort yourself out."
Oh man!
So that was the time. That was the timeline of my mission. That was what it consisted of. I about a month. No, wait a minute. A month after I got married, but a couple of years after we got back, there was this mission reunion in the UK, and it was great. It was great to see everybody, and I saw President Sister Vriens, and I can't remember the exact words that we used, but President Vriens basically said to me, that I was that I did the work after a manner, is what he said. And I thought, well, I think I've got some kind of reputation that I never knew anything about. But I was thoroughly committed to this mission from the get-go. I knew the Lord had called me, and I think I needed reminding of my place in it all constantly. But I know that before and since, I have rarely had more holier moments than I had as a missionary, testifying, and a lot of them involve Lizzy Kenny, testifying, feeling almost like a conduit for the Spirit working straight through you at times. I remember one particular glorious summer evening on the way back from Montrose to Arbroath, where our flat was, and we just felt joy more than anything we had ever felt. I remember us just laughing and smiling and just going, what is this feeling? And it was just absolute elation from the Spirit. I can't remember what happened on that day. And I don't know if you remember the day, Lizzy, but I remember us driving over that bridge that goes out of Montrose onto the country roads into Arbroath, and we were just so happy. And it makes me feel amazing talking about it.
It's really funny because when you said you cried every day for those first 2 weeks, I actually can't remember the crying, but I do remember a lot of the laughter and the fun and the joy, definitely, and some of the experiences specifically that we had in Montrose. Yeah.
There was only Sister Kenny and I, sisters-wise, and then Elder Pullen and Elder Pattenden, I think it was, if I remember right, were assistants.
Okay.
And they were great. A lot of respect for both of those people. I remember that dinner, yes. And then the trip up Pratt's Hill, etc. Hopefully she'll come back. I won't tell her story, but I remember the dinner. And I just think it's a lot, You've been at the MTC and then you're shipped off on a train up to Scotland. You come off, you bus stop to the mission home, and then it's a dinner and it's interviews and it's a walk up Pratt's Hill, and it's then, right, well, you can't stay here. Go say, yeah, it was a lot. I don't know how differently they do things these days. One thing I should mention, my niece is on a mission in the Scotland Island mission, as it has become now, right at this moment. And she has spent most of her time in Scotland so far, but she's just been moved to Ireland. And she's she met Gordon Stevenson. She went to Edinburgh. She met him and sent me a picture of her standing with him and his wife, and it just
fantastic.
amazing. Scotland's still there, right?
Yeah. Merron, while we're waiting, tell us your experience with Pratt's Hill. How was your experience there?
It's a hill. I had to walk up. I was so tired. It was such a long day, and then walk up this hill. Okay, so but get into the part that you really want to know about. I have to admit, at the beginning, feeling rather conscious of praying on top of a public hill. I'm sure many have. And I just remember sort of dedicating myself in a very general way, and just saying to the Lord that I would do my best and help me to do it. I think the perhaps the deeper meaning of it all was lost on me until nearer the end of my mission, when it was a much more profound experience. I think the concept of reporting and remembering and thinking about all that had passed in the 18 months between. I think my prayer at the end consisted a lot of, forgive me, Lord. I did try. But at the same time, thanking him for all these people that I'd been able to meet. I think your release day, because it was the day before, and then going home. When you're from this country, I think I have a sick child who wants to come visit me. She can. Come on, sweetheart. Come and sit next to me. Yeah, so I don't know, foreign missionaries, I don't know if it's any easier for you because you physically have to leave the country to go home. It maybe takes a while, a day or two to get home, however it works. But for me, I remember just being at the mission home one moment. The next I was at the train station with other missionaries who were being transferred that day. So we'd all gone down to Edinburgh train station. And I was standing there with President Fredrick's, and the time was sort of counting down to when my train was coming in, and it came, and some elders helped move my luggage, I think, to the train, and that was it. I was gone. It was over, and I remember that it was a couple of hours, 2-3 hours train ride home. And I just sat there with this badge on, I was still this missionary, knowing that it was a direct train. I was going to see my family in however many hours, and it went very quickly. And I just didn't want to get off the train. When it got to my stop, I just remember thinking, it's all going to change now. It was a very surreal feeling. I'd actually bought the day before a bagpipe CD or something from Edinburgh for my parents, as a sort of souvenir, and they put it on when, like, the day after I got home, and I was just a blubbering mess. I love bagpipes and I love Scotland.
Oh, I love it.
So that's me done. That's my mission.
Well, while we have you still, Merron, too, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to since your mission.
So I went straight back to university, finished my degree, did another year postgrad to qualify as a secondary school teacher, taught for a few years, got married in that time, and I've had 5 children. So wow. I haven't gone back to work. I met my husband here in the UK, but he is originally from Tanzania. He served a mission in Kenya from his home country and things, but was a convert to the church. And the way he views the church, I mean, being married to a convert has really made me assess what I do and how much of it is really linked to cultural practice and how much of it is really linked to gospel doctrine. And he's a lovely man. He's a gentle and kind man, and a really great dad, thank goodness, because 5 children are a lot to handle.
What ages are your kids?
So now Leah's our eldest. She's 11. And Molly is, gosh, how old's Molly? Nearly 10, so she's 9 still. Lucas, our only boy, poor guy, is 8. Then we have Emma, who is 6, just turned 6, and Zoe, who is just turned 3. Those are our children, and no more.
That's great. I have 4 sisters too, so tell Lucas to hang in there. It'll be all right.
He's like his dad's shadow. He never leaves him. As soon as he's in from work, Dad, help. The girls, me again.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Now, for my clarification, were you both MTC companions then, or were there other sisters in your MTC group?
There was other sisters, yeah.
Okay.
We weren't companions.
Okay. Did they? But I'm guessing that.
Share a room.
Did we share a room? No.
No. I said we didn't even share a room.
Oh wow!
Oh, didn't we? You went in my room. Huh.
No. But we used to congregate for it. We used to have a spiritual thought, I think, at the end of the day or something.
Yeah.
And we used to congregate in there, and I would wrestle with Sister Thumbu. And
yeah, I remember that.
and you, Sister, what was the name of Sister? I only know her married now. Eliza. What was her?
Toronto she was my companion, so she was Toronto. Yeah, she's Bradshaw now. Yeah.
Dog impressions.
Did she? Oh my gosh, she did. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, Lizzy.
So I'm quite confused with this new.
No, you're perfectly fine.
But,
I think we're good. Why don't you go through your companions and your areas, and then we can talk about what you've been up to.
There is I think there's something worth talking about with my MTC experience. So should I go back to the MTC and share that story?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so I entered the MTC on the 16th of February. That much I knew. I packed the morning off because it was like 45 minutes from my house. I mean, there was stuff there, but I just didn't put it into a bag or a suitcase. And when I came to, it turns out we lent them the luggage out. I couldn't find any luggage to pack it into. So I ended up, if anyone ever helped me move, I ended up with this like massive fisherman's. I found my brother's fisherman's bag, pulled out the fisherman tackle, and that's what I used to go on my mission, which I thought was really pertinent because I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a fisherman. Anyway, that was my rucksack. And then I had like a little pull along with a broken handle.
Oh my gosh.
My luggage was terrible. But I made the MTC on time, even though I was 45 minutes down the road. I got there. Anyway, it was a good job I did, because the next day, I don't know if you remember this, Merron, but the next day, the morning of the 17th of February, 2 policemen knocked on my door with a warrant for my arrest.
No way.
Do you remember this, Merron? Do you remember I had to deal with it? Don't you? I got pulled out of class because I had to deal with the police and detectives and stuff. But so basically... So there was a warrant for my arrest, and it had been out for a while. So if they'd have come the day before,
it wasn't actually you.
Yeah, so it turned out to be some identity fraud.
Remember.
It was like classic identity theft, but by all intents and purposes, on paper it was me. And if I'd have been pulled over by the police, they would have arrested me, taken me in straight away. Like if I'd have been in the next morning, I wouldn't have made it to the MTC because they would have taken me in for questioning. And so because my dad was like, he's going on a mission, she's in the MTC, she's not here. So basically, I remember being in class and getting pulled out of class, and the MTC president having to like download all of this information to me that 2 policemen had knocked on my door. There's a warrant for my arrest. The MTC had already spoken to the police, and anyway, so they came to the MTC. I got pulled out of class. I got questioned.
Oh my gosh!
They kind of knew it was identity theft and that it's not me, but they still wanted to come and talk to me, obviously. So I got questioned in the MTC by a detective. And actually, I was really scared about it. I knew it wasn't me. I knew it was identity theft. It actually had some weird correspondence that had come through anyway, that I was like, this is weird, but I didn't do anything about it. But I was scared that they would send me. There was a talk of like I might have to go home to resolve it before I can come back out. And the MTC president, he was like, it was President Winwood. He was like, if they'd have come before you got into the MTC, the church would have said you'd have to resolve it before you even come on your mission. I I don't even know if I would have got back on my mission after that point. But
Wow.
but that, so basically, and so this was going on for the interim of the MTC. Basically, the detective that came got quite excited because it was his first case, like exciting case. So he was really excited about it, and I was like, it's not fun for me. And I had to give him a bunch of details, weird correspondence that had come through that he had to go and follow up on. Then there was talk of I'd have to come down to show myself in the case, to present myself in court, to show that I'm not that person. But bit by bit, there was just, you know, grace after grace after grace, which I didn't have any, like, there was no, like, they just dealt with it. They took that away and I didn't have to do anything in the end. I think there was some correspondence that came when I was on my mission to say, ask a couple of questions. And then about 6 months into my mission came the correspondence of the court case has been, it's all done, it's all dealt with. And so that detective had to go and vouch for me in the court and be like, I've seen her, I've met with her, it's not the same person, things like that. But that was happening throughout my MTC experience. So it was a little bit of a testament to me how much I wanted to go on a mission, because it was threatened the day after I got into the MTC, it was threatened that I might have to go home to deal with this. But it was identity theft. I didn't commit any fraudulent behaviour. Just want to put that out there.
On the record, here it is.
On the record, it wasn't
man.
me. Yeah, so that was my MTC. Just as in the background. So I don't know if you remember that, Merron. You don't remember it? No.
I just a vague memory, but no, not really.
Yeah, so I remember it. And I remember Ben Woodward, he was married to someone I knew from Liverpool. So he was one of the MTC guys as well. On the MTC presidency, I think. And President Winwood, he apparently had said, I'm worried about it. She doesn't, you know, she seems quite stressed by it. And he was like, nah, she's from Liverpool. She'll be fine.
Oh, man, that's too good.
Yeah. Anyway, but that was being in the right place at the right time for you. Yeah,
absolutely. What a story. I guarantee that there's not many others that have a story like that, Lizzy. That's amazing. All right, take us into Scotland and let's go through your companions and companions.
Scotland. So I arrived in Scotland, the mission home. I didn't love it. I didn't have a positive experience. It wasn't glowy. I don't know how you felt in the mission home, Merron. I think we had a conversation about it because we were in the bed and breakfast, weren't we, down the road on our little romantic getaway.
She'd gone home, hadn't she? She'd gone home for some family. I don't know what it was. So we couldn't stay in the mission home with.
That's right.
Without Vriens there. So we went to this bed and breakfast, which was interesting. I just remember, I mean, I'm very food orientated anyway. I remember we had haggis for breakfast.
Yes, we did. It was a cooked breakfast in the morning. Yeah, we did. We got a full cooked breakfast. No, that was nice. I enjoyed that. Yeah, so I remember thinking when I was in the mission home, I need to go as far away from here as I can get, because I don't think this is where I can feel free and myself. And it was just, I think it was just the intimidating part of the beginning of the mission. Basically, it was just, you know, it felt a bit intense, and there was a heavy dialogue of strict obedience as well when we were in there, and it was like, gosh, I've just was excited to come and I feel like I'm getting told off already. But off I went with Krista Heap up to Aberdeen. So she was my trainer, Krista Heap. She was, I think I peaked straight away because she was just a brilliant companion. I mean, to be honest, I should have played the lottery on my mission because every single companion was absolute pure gold. So it would have been a good time for me, I think, to play the lottery. But no, so Krista was easy, like just easy to be it was easy friendship, like it was familiar friendship from the get-go. Like she just felt familiar. It was easy friendship. We're still really good friends today. And she was brilliant because she was my trainer, but I can honestly say I don't think she ever once offered me any kind of correction or here's how you do it. She just let me be me, and she just let me run with it and do what I want. And I was a little bit like evangelical and all hyped up from being in the MTC. And so she did good not to kind of squash any of that really, and just let me kind of get squashed naturally, like by Scotland and the work itself. She didn't give me any reality check. And she had no agenda with me to try and make me be anyone or do anything. And I really, really remember that and appreciated it. And she let me even take the first, what's that, like the goals, setting the goals and stuff. And she was like, well, what do you think? And she kept doing that. She never said, here's what I think. She always said, well, what do you think? Well, what do you want to do? And so I was, high from being in the MTC, because the MTC is like a high experience, isn't it? It's like being on acid or something. And it's intense. Anyway, and so and I think we had a particularly, evangelical MTC presence. So he was, but I was there, like, making these really high numbers in the goals. And I don't know if this was because she was embarrassed by the numbers or if it was because she, again, wanted me to do everything. Like, you call the zone leaders and give them the numbers. So she was like, why don't you call them and tell them what our goals are? And I think it was sincere and genuine. She was just like literally getting me involved from the get-go, and she wasn't, allowing that whole, the usual kind of, I guess the usual kind of, a
process, right?
Yeah, exactly. So so I called the zone leaders, Bautista and Brownlow at the time. Oh, you were my first zone. You guys, you knew me.
Yes, we were. Yeah.
So you saw that crazy carrot that came in just totally high as a kite. And I was really excited, but she let me be that person. And I phoned the zone leaders, Brownlow and Bautista. I can't remember who it was, Bautista or Brownlow, who took these numbers. And actually it wasn't with any malice or anything, but they laughed at me. And they were like, what are you going to do? Are you going to hand out Babs invitations on the doorsteps? And I was like, what? What's wrong with my numbers? These are great numbers. I had no bearing, any kind of sense of reality. And it was totally, but she was great. She was a really good friend, I think, during that time. And I think that's what happened. We just realized, we had a lot in common. It was an easy friendship. We talked music choices. There was this one like defining moment when we were talking music a lot. And she went, and I said, so my favorite songs, I wrote the lyrics down in the back of my journal because I wanted to have them with me still, but without bringing the music. And she went, really? I went, yeah. And so I remember showing her like the back of my journal with all these song lyrics that had been written out. And then she goes, I've never shown anyone this. And she like gets a suitcase down and right down at the bottom of it, she gets this iPod out. And then she introduced me to like Modest Mouse and a bunch of her bands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Little contraband music.
Little bit of contraband, But
now Sister Heap has to come on the podcast and explain herself, because oh my gosh, that's too funny.
But it's hard giving up stuff like that, isn't it? Like, little parts of yourself that were tied up in music and stuff, and pieces of expression and stuff. But she'd never got it out. She said she'd never got out and listened to it. She just brought it because I guess that was one of those things that she just wanted to still have access to. Maybe, I don't know if I'm digging a hole for her. Sorry, Krista.
That's funny.
But,
it's like having a childhood blanket or something, right? It was just it made you feel comfy and warm, right?
Yeah.
I was your district leader at the time and never got back to me, so you're good.
You were the district leader. That's right, you were. Were both of you then? Was it just you? Did they do district leaders in pairs, or was it always one?
I was training Zack.
I was in my second transfer when you came in, so I was still a newbie.
You're only in your second transfer. Oh, okay. I mean, I looked up to you guys, but you had no choice, did you, with you two? Because you were and me. But I remember thinking that you were guys like proper veterans in the mission at that time, both of you.
No, I was still a baby.
But yeah. Okay, yeah. That was a fun district. Because McClure was in there as well, wasn't he? And what's his name? Nathan Austin, is it? Austin?
Yeah,
that's right, Elder Austin.
Remember him as well. And then I remember Brownlow and Bautista. And they told so Brownlow and Bautista, they caught us on a P-Day in our own clothes. And And they told us that's not, you can't be doing that, basically. I mean, know how times have changed, 20 years on, sister missionaries wear what they like now anyway, but any day of the week. But they were like, oh, it's not appropriate and stuff. And so, only if you're playing sports. And so from that point on, we carried a Frisbee with us on every P day, no matter what we were doing.
That's too good. Oh yeah, we're throwing a disc.
We always used to say, it's all right, we're going to run for the bus.
We're going to run for the bus. I'm not being funny, but if you guys wore a skirt 6-7 days of the week, you would want any excuse to get out of them tights and that skirt. Oh man, it was pretty tough going.
Hey, we look for the same opportunities. I mean, you think that we enjoyed having a collar and a tie on, most of the day, all the time? You weren't alone in
that. Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. No, I don't say that in any kind of malice towards Bautista and Brown. I absolutely love those guys. But yeah, I do remember that. So who was next after Heap? I actually made a little chronological line for myself. There was Malin, of course. Yeah, Malin came in. So Malin came in, like what Merron said, she was just absolutely cracked in all the best ways. She was a grafter though, like proper grafter, like full on, to the point where I couldn't wait for P Day. And P Day came and she goes, right, we've got to sort this flat out. We spent the whole day, like literally 4 P days in a row, I think, cleaning out the flat and clearing out all the junk from the flat and like having a proper clear out. Like, who's that woman on Netflix who, chucks everything out? Forget her name, but she was like, yeah, like it was, I was just like, oh, I didn't have like any assertiveness to be like, can we do something more chilled out next P Day? So I just followed her and did it with her. But she was such a fun companion. She was, I really enjoyed my time with Malin as well. And she just was like, I don't know, I think there was something about Malin that had to work for her own survival. Like she was just working was how she, I don't know, was where she got her survival from, I suppose. Like just keep going. And she was so committed and so on it with everything, like everything. But we did have some fun times. And there was this one day that had been absolutely horrible. Everything had been cancelled on us. Every door had been slammed in our face. The weather had been horrific. Aberdeen weather was, but you know that. But we got to the end of the day and everything had fallen through. Every door had slammed in our face, and even our solid things had kind of cancelled. And we got to the end of the day, and we had like an hour and a half or something left. Something else had cancelled. And we were like, right, okay, let's go over there and do some chapping. We stood by the road and this car came past, and the precision of how this car went through the puddle, like it defied gravity, because this puddle came right up over our heads and just like bucket loads of like dirty petrol road water, like literally drenched to the skin. Honestly, like genuinely, it was like it defied physics and chemistry and wherever else. It defied the laws. And we just kind of stood there and she just went, well, I guess we're going home.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember just like going, I just want to go home now. Like, and then that happened. And she goes, well, and she was annoyed. Like, she was like annoyed, not by the fact that she'd been wet, but annoyed that she had to go home now. Like, that was what annoyed her. And, but we got to laugh about it at least. And that was good fun. We were totally drenched with petrol water, filthy road water.
Now remind me, were you guys in the Aberdeen ward or were you in Bridge of Dawn?
Bridge of Dawn, yeah, actually.
Okay,
that's what specified that. We were in Bridge of Dawn ward, yeah.
Make sure. Okay.
So many characters there though in Aberdeen. Like I think there were more people there on narcotics that I think I ever encountered anywhere else on my mission. There was more sick on the road and on the streets that I ever saw anywhere else on my mission. Like there was more people talking to themselves as they walked down the street. Like I think Aberdeen was one of the most real places I think I served. Yeah. And the characters were amazing. We don't know her age because she said her age was something different every week, but she got a testimony because she betted on the horses and prayed which one to win, and it won. And so she betted 25 pence on the horse and it won. So then she came to church and she believed then. But she came to church and she was like 80 or 90 or something, absolutely off a rocker, absolutely brilliant. Her name was Isabel. Krista Heap will tell you about her. And she put her foot up on the bench with a little Nora, batty tights, and she flirted with the bishop. She was like full on flirting with the bishop. It was brilliant. It was great. I loved it. I think that's what was great about Scotland, though, wasn't it? There was always a character to enjoy up there. Okay, so after Malin, we got Montrose Roberts. We got the call to whitewash into Montrose. So who did we kick out? It was it Baird and
Sean and Paul?
Christensen?
We knew them as Sean and Paul.
Sean and Paul. Yes, that's right.
Only
so
because
introduction.
Go on, you tell it. It's your turn.
No, you tell it. You've just remembered it. I wouldn't have remembered it.
Sean and Paul, that's too funny.
There was a lady that they'd been teaching, and they'd obviously gotten really close. And for some reason, she was referring to them as Sean and Paul. And we said, well, we're not Sean and Paul, basically. And she got baptised in the end. She didn't stay active for very long, but it was an interesting experience, wasn't it? But yeah, so we, in a very flippant way, used to just refer to Sean and Paul.
Yeah, it was true.
Sorry,
that was our introduction to Baird and Christensen. It wasn't Baird and Christensen, it was Sean and Paul, because it wasn't just one lady. There was we went and met all of their investigators, which were amazing investigators. They were absolutely golden. They all referred to them as Sean and Paul.
They were well prepped.
Hi, Sean. Hi, Paul.
They were very well prepped.
Yeah, they were. And but you remember as well, though, Merron, in that it's like the first ward council. So we'd gone round and met all of the people that they were teaching in that first week or so, and we went to ward council, and this was one of my first introductions to who Merron was, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm serving with someone who lays the smack down. because that first ward council, their first introduction to us as missionaries, and they're all talking about how they were glad we were there, and they were kind of there was a suggestion that the investigators they'd been teaching were just there for the missionaries, and Merron just put that, like, literally nipped that in the bud there and then. She went, whoa, 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 like literally to the bishop and everyone, all of the leaders around that table. She went, whoa, 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 hang on a minute, can we all stop right there? She said, we've met with every single one of these investigators. I can tell you right now that each of them have an invested interest in learning about the gospel of Jesus Christ. We've gauged it. So all of this talk that they're just interested in the missionaries, it's rubbish. What they do need is ward support. She just laid it down. And I just went, I remember, because there was like a...
Brilliant.
Like a reverence of silence across the room. And
this is this reputation that I didn't know anything about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Merron, the enforcer.
Yeah, no, but it was brilliant. And I was, she was an advocate for the investigators. You were, though. You were a total advocate for the people that we were teaching at all costs. Yeah. And that's who you were there to defend. And I loved that. And jump in any time during this Montrose time, Merron, because we can just deep dive into this right now. But we realised that the members were also quite tired and burnt out, I think, in a lot of ways. Small branches, small wards typically aren't they? Because everyone does 10 jobs. But they were definitely felt like they were tired and a little bit worn.
They were very, very good to us.
They were amazing to us. But do you remember you said, I think it was you, Merron, who said, I think we need to change our strategy. And you said, we're just going to go around and serve the members and have no agenda with them whatsoever. But you were like, we're going to go into every home. We're going to look for a place that we can serve as we get to know them. We would pray before we went in there that we were able to pay attention and have that kind of highlighted to us in some way, that there was an opportunity for us to do something with them. And And we got to know them properly. Like, we just had no agenda with them other than how can we get to know these people and how can we serve them? And that was our agenda, maybe for a month. Was it like for the whole first transfer? I don't know how long that went on for, but
I don't know, but I feel like it worked because we have some lifelong friends from that ward, and still in touch with a few of them now. But I think it really helped in terms of because we had a few baptisms in that ward, I remember. And I think it really helped with handing them over as well, handing over our, and there's all sorts of things wrong with this phrase, but our investigators, handing them over and having that trust and that transition. And I appreciate how the structure of things in missionary work and things in wards has changed over the past years. And I think it's brilliant that transition should be a lot easier and a lot more involved. But I think it also helped because then the members helped us, didn't they? And would come on teachers with us and things. So it was easier.
Yeah. I think that's what we saw. We saw an immediate shift in, we weren't phoning them up. We started getting, they started calling us up and saying, how can we help? What do you need from us this week? Which was just phenomenal. And we, where we were, it was tricky to get to church on Sunday. You had to get a train at a certain time, didn't you? And so we had those lifts that were getting offered to get those people to church, which was brilliant. And yeah, I loved the time there. I've got a few things written down from that time, Merron, if you want to talk about some of them, but go on. Zack, you had your hand up. I'll let you speak on your own podcast.
I'm sorry. So you guys didn't have a car at that point. Is that true?
We did.
Oh, you did. Okay. But you're saying for other investigators to get to and from church from outlying areas like Arbroath and the other areas to get there was tough.
Or if we ran out of miles and we would meet investigators at the train station and go with them. It happened a couple of times.
Wow.
Yeah, that did. That's true. Yeah, we would get the train with them. That's true. Every now and then, President would say, use your best wisdom. I think every now and then they did jump in the car with us for certain things, ward activities or something like that. But when we were really stuck. Yeah. But yes, yeah.
Thank you for clarifying
that train
that.
as well. The train. I remember that train because it went to London King's Cross, which is where my now husband, then ex-boyfriend, lived. So I remember getting on the train and having to get off it. I was literally you can walk 2 minutes from the station, from King's Cross station to where he was. And I was yeah.
And it went to Birmingham as well. Do you remember us talking about we could just get on the train and not get off?
Yeah, we could. We could literally ride that train all the way home, all of us. I think that's what we worked out the route of that train that we had to get on a Sunday morning. And every time we had to get off it, knowing the destinations of where it was going to go. But so I've got a few things written down. Merron, do you remember the dead dog? Don't remember it, do you?
Burying
yeah,
a dead, yes, digging up the dead. Jan Mearns. That name, oh my goodness. Anybody who has ever heard Montrose will remember Jan Mearns. She used to call the missionaries and talk about her. How many illnesses was it?
She had lots of illnesses. So she'd call and say, can you say a prayer for me? And then she'd give you the reasons why. And those reasons could last 5 minutes or 10 or 15 or half an hour of the reasons why you had to pray for her.
Of course, you had to be really reverent while your companion was praying for Jan Mearns. And not mock them at all. It would just be a
20 illnesses. Yeah. Bless her.
Illnesses.
She had about 20 illnesses a week, I think, different ones. It was amazing. I learned, to be honest, I came out of Montrose with a medical degree after that.
So you were on the phone with her, and I was probably laughing at you and humouring her. And you asked if there's something we could do for her, and she said about her dog in her garden and digging it up. And I remember you going, "You want us to dig up your dead dog?" Oh my gosh. Did you go, yes? And you're like, I'll see what we can do.
Yeah. She wanted us to dig up the dead dog.
Superb.
Oh gosh,
We never met her in person ever. It was.
no, we only had a phone relationship with her, didn't we?
I wonder.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I'd love to meet her someday. It's funny.
Yeah. I can't remember why we didn't do it, but we got out of it
Did we?
somehow.
I feel like we went to her house and there was no answer. I think we
Possibly,
were
yeah.
prepared. We went prepared to dig up a dead dog.
We did. We had a spade. She wanted it moved. I think was she
Yes.
moving? Maybe she was moving. Oh, she
Yes,
was
that
moving.
was it. She was moving and she wanted it taken with her.
She wanted
Yes,
to
and
take
she
a dead
didn't
dog.
answer the door, and we were really relieved, but gutted at the same time because we wanted a story to tell.
Yeah, that's right. She was moving. Yeah, maybe she got someone else to dig it up. Sean and Paul came in to dig it up for her. So, do you remember this, Merron? Do you remember the naked man?
This must have been while I was in the shower or something, because
No,
you
it
didn't mention.
wasn't when you were in the shower. We were at the door. He opened the door fully naked to us.
Oh yes, through the gut. Yes. No, I remember, and I gave him the spiel. Well, you gave him the spiel. One of us just kept talking.
I went into autopilot, and I just went into auto. I didn't know what to do, so I went into autopilot with the spiel, wanting him to just say no thanks and close the door. But then I was thinking, what if he invites us in?
Yes.
Because he was definitely like intoxicated, so he could have easily invited us in.
Yes. I remember, and I'm going, what are you still talking to him for? Yes.
You were like,
goodness.
why is she talking to him? And then he was like engaging with us. And then he finally shut the door and said no thanks and shut the door. And you just went, why did you start talking to him? You're just like, why? Why did you do that? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't expect a naked man to open the door.
It was for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, that
we
was a
had
good
some
one.
experiences.
It always amazed me when that sort
Did
of
I write
thing
anything else
happened.
down?
Because people, like,
Yeah.
why do you answer the door?
Did it happen to you?
I think he was drunk. Yeah, I think he was drunk because he wasn't even making any sense.
Okay, no, he wasn't. He was definitely, he was definitely something. So Jack. Sorry, Jack and Zack. It's like Ant and Dec, isn't it? Did you have someone open the door like that to you?
Several times at least in a state not fit to like be answering the door. So
I had a couple of instances that I can recall pretty vividly where women would come to the door in like robes that were not to be answering the door in, and we're like, oh, okay, we're missionaries. We'll come back later. Just have that kind of a mindset. Chris Harlow, in our conversation, he reminded me of an instance where we went on exchanges, and we didn't realize that we were kind of down by the docks in Aberdeen. And later on, we learned that was like the red light district.
Oh.
And we knocked on a door, and a woman answered the door, and she goes, I have somebody in. Can you come back later? And we like walked away going, hang on a second. And then we had somebody tell us in the ward, don't go down there. That's not the place where the missionaries should be knocking doors. So had to learn the hard way. It was interesting.
Gosh, that's good.
When I was in Shetland, we had somebody who we were teaching, and we've gotten, I suppose she felt probably quite close to us, but this is what I mean about Shetland. There's so few people there. And she asked Sister Garnham and I if we would be her bridesmaids at her wedding. And whilst we felt very touched, we said, I think we'll have to ask our president, and then sort of just came back with missionaries aren't supposed to be bridesmaids, but all sorts of things as missionaries. Don't you just get exposed to a whole plethora of people that just have different backgrounds, and you become part of it, don't you? And I think it surprises you sometimes how big a part or how trusted a part of their lives you become, doesn't it?
Do you know, you've just reminded me of something there, Merron. One of the people we were teaching, we became aware that they were in an abusive relationship, physically abusive relationship. And you said, okay, I'm not allowed to do this with a badge on. so I'm going to take the badge off. And you took the badge off and you went, I'm not Sister Roberts anymore, I'm Merron. And here's what I'm going to say to you as Merron. And you said what you needed to do in that situation. And even that, I just respected that in a massive way as well, because you were just laying the smack down like you always did, but you found a way not to, not to do it, breaking any rules. Essentially.
Yeah, we had some interesting scenarios come up against. Is this what I mean about Montrose? It was a real learning area, and we had to work quite closely, I remember, with the bishop and with President about a couple of things. But what it really taught me as well, because we were teaching somebody who had committed a very serious sin in their life, and it surprised both of us that this had come out. Somebody else had told us about it, another person, a friend of hers that we were teaching. And our first, I think, thoughts were, well, we can't keep teaching her. And I think when we really thought about it then, and I remember us coming to the conclusion, gosh, she needs the gospel more than any of us then. This whole thing about who owes the Lord those who he has forgiven the most. And something, again, I've tried to really keep in mind throughout my post-mission life as well is, we all do things that are so repulsive and repugnant to the Lord. But those are the things that bring us close to him if we will seek forgiveness through Jesus Christ. And it was a really uplifting and very profound kind of time, I think, because of that.
Yeah, I think, we definitely had a lot of growth in that area. And we had some, absolutely stunning sunsets as well. The flat that we had was really beautiful. We moved our beds. Oh, you were there, weren't you? That's right. You were on the, I remember seeing your name, Hewlett.
Wait, hang on a second. Are you telling me that you guys moved your beds into the living room so you could see the ocean?
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
We're saying you guys did that and we moved them back.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, They were there when we went in like that. Yeah.
And they're the ones who broke the electrical socket, and then the landlord told us off for it. Do you remember?
Yeah. Was that them or was that Sean and Paul?
It had to have been Sean and Paul. It wasn't me, because I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you.
If you want to come and defend yourselves at some point, please do. I think you're great.
So I had the privilege of following the sisters into Montrose. And
did you?
Yeah, so I whitewashed in when I trained Elder Marsh about Christmas time of 2005. So you were probably there like early summer, and then I think Sister Cooper and Sister Malin closed the area and we moved in. And man, you guys had done such great work in that ward, because clearly, like, hearing what you're talking about in your experience with the members there, bless Paul Christensen and Sean Bird, but clearly there were things that needed to be repaired. And by the time that I got there with my greenie, the ward was primed and ready for us to come in and do some great work. Now, mind you, it was still a building process, but they were a heck of a lot more receptive, because you sisters had gone in and mended relationships and made it so that the missionaries weren't a pariah in the ward, but were actually a benefit. So much kudos to you.
Thanks. I don't know about that, to be honest. Oh, she says thanks. She's like, thanks.
Just take it.
And that flat was unbelievable. We can talk about the flat all day, but that was the nicest flat in the whole mission, by my opinion, anyway.
Oh, by a mile. It was amazing. It was, the sunset. We were there over the timeline. What's that?
You haven't finished your timeline.
I haven't. No,
we're just going to Rose. Come on, finish your mission.
She's so slimmy. I'll take my time now. I'm going to go nice and slow, which some of the Americans might appreciate if I slow my speech down. Everyone's got to listen to it. Like, what is it, 0.5 or something? They've had to slow it down on the podcast, haven't they, where you can slow the time down.
Oh, geez.
I taught in the MTC, after my mission, a little divert, and the common complaint with me was she talks too fast, as always. Followed me around my whole life, that complaint. But But I remember saying to the missionaries in the MTC, I was like, I'm not being funny, but where you're going, you need to learn to listen faster. Everyone's slowing down for you in Ireland and Scotland and Liverpool and even South London. So basically, where are we? Montrose still. I was going to say something. I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh no, Baird and Christensen. Giving some credit to them though, the investigators they found, like Nadia and Natasha, I love to this day, and I felt like I found real friends in them, like just friends, like genuine friends. Don't care what happened with the gospel, like genuine friends for life. With Nadia and Natasha, who were two twin sisters there, old twin sisters in terms of like they had kids and stuff. But just a few years ago, Nadia contacted me because she was coming to London where I used to live, and she said, are you around? And I said, actually I'm not, because I was on holiday, it was in the summer, but do you have anywhere to stay? Because if you don't, stay in my house. And so then she said, can Natasha come as well? And so they came with their kids while I wasn't there, so I had to leave the key for them and they came. Then I was in Devon camping and we'd bought a tent which was it was faulty. It was from a faulty line, and it like just lashed it down on one of the days there, and it leaked. So we had to go home. So we got there. We went home a day early, and they were still there. So I went home to Natasha, Nadia, and some of their younger kids that I hadn't met yet in my house. And then I woke up to my kids playing with their kids in my house and in my garden. I was like, this is actually really surreal that these people I met in Arbroath 20 years ago or something are here in my home, and just love them, like genuinely really love them as friends, and will always love them as friends. So I just thanks Baird and Christensen for that. But you remember, of course you remember Nadia and Natasha anyway. Great. They were still around, were they, when you came in?
I remember knocking on their door a few times, and obviously they didn't want to talk to the boys. They preferred the sisters, and so we didn't go around there very much. But I do remember meeting them.
That's really funny. Oh, they were really great. So back to my timeline. So Edinburgh was Crookston next. So 4.5 months in Montrose with Roberts was amazing. That was a total milestone building experience. We had Crookston though in a trio for 3 weeks, didn't we? Remember she got sent to us for 3 weeks.
Yeah, you just reminded me of that actually, and we were so distracted. I don't know what it is about serving in a trio, but it just becomes like so distracting. Like we still served, but like we had too much fun for it to be a mission. Do you know what I mean? It was really it was like sleepovers every night. It was just fun.
It was fun because we were so deprived though as well. We were so deprived of like other sister missionary socialization, I think.
That's true. And in fact, the number of sister missionaries dwindled so much throughout our mission, didn't it? At one point, it got to the point where there's 4 or 6 sister missionaries in the whole mission or something.
I think there was 5 because I was in a trio and you were in a companionship. Sorry, I'm talking over you. Sorry, Merron.
No, go for it. It's your turn.
Sorry, no. So I think there was 5 sister missionaries at one point. There was a trio because I was in it, and then there was you and Lewis, I think, in another companionship. 5 of us, 2 companionships in the whole mission. Like we were deprived of socialization, so I took those 3 weeks with Crookston and I enjoyed them, quite frankly.
I had a lot of fun.
That 3 weeks, that 3 weeks had to have been the time when the barbecue at the Dundee Zone Leaders house happened, right?
Was it?
Yeah. No, I know what you're referring to, and we weren't serving together because I have a picture of that, where I know, the house that was across the road from Liff Road.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't think we were serving together at that point, were we? Because Heap was there as well, and
okay.
No, do you know what? You're right. Actually, we were serving together, and Sister Heap was going home.
And she had come up for that, right?
Her parents, yes, that's why she was there. So it must have been. And we went to that big park.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember that now. We had a water fight.
No, Elder
there was a water
Spragg
fight.
had a water fight and roped us all into it.
Yeah, that's right. I remember meeting Heap's parents there. That's a good memory.
Gosh, everything's so mixed up now. It's so weird to remember it all.
That was a fun water fight, though. So kudos to, was it Spragg who started that? Was it?
Well, if you remember, we started at the park and we were playing games and having fun, and then they're like, "Come back to our flat and we'll have a barbecue." And we got back, and there were already missionaries that had gone there prior to everyone else getting there to start making food or whatever. And when we got there, the windows were open on the front of their flat because it was a 2-story, and they had water balloons that they chucked at everybody as we walked up.
Yeah.
So and then we found out later, and Spragg said this on his episode, that I think you lot had prepared yourselves. You came with squirt guns ready for a water fight, and I mean I had no idea. I just was in the crossfire of it all.
I remember that because I think because she was going home, she wanted some fun, and I think it might have been her instigating getting the water guns separately from knowing that there was going to be water there. I think she was planning something herself anyway. But yeah, I do remember that. So it was also in Montrose. I've just remembered. This would have been handy if Crookston was there then, but she wasn't. I got a weird, mysterious illness that looked like chicken pox, but didn't act like chicken pox.
And we had to stay inside for ages. It drove us crazy.
Yeah.
And I go to church without you.
Yeah, you got permission to leave with a member.
Without you.
Yeah. So you got permission if there was a member, you could go and teach as well. So any of our investigators, they could still be taught with you and a member. And I had to stay away from everyone for I don't know how long, it felt like forever. But then one of the members dropped around a TV with a video thing attached to it, VCR player and a bunch of videos. Do you remember that, Merron? We phoned up and said, "What videos are we allowed to watch? Because someone's dropped them round." And so we had like a stack of videos. This is how old they were, of like Disney's and stuff like that. But there was a few, little bit, more extra ones in there because we watched Freaky Friday. I always remember watching Freaky Friday. Really? And you were like, "Is this a PG?" And I was like, "It's a PG, yeah." But
that's so apostate. I can't believe we did that. We're going to hell, surely.
We asked permission.
We're going to be thrust with the liars. Oh my goodness.
No, we did. We asked permission, and the president was like, "Well, you're stuck indoors, so just keep yourself sane." And so he seemed to be quite.
I sometimes wonder if President Vriens was a bit like I don't know. Was he more hands-on with the elders? A bit more like, you do what you're told and that's it. I feel like he was very good to us and we got away with a lot.
It's true.
I remember going and stealing the mission van from the mission home and using it to go and do shopping or something, and then getting back, and we bought this little miniature van from the shops, and I put it on his desk with a little note going "thanks," or like that. We got away with a lot. So I got told off by Sister Vriens a lot.
All right. So here's my perspective real quick. All right. President Vriens was in charge of the immature 19, 20, and 20-year-old boys, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. And Sister Vriens got to deal with you as mature adults. So as a result, you had more privileges than us boys who tended to do stupid things. So that's my opinion. It could be wrong, but I'm certain that President Vriens was like, "Look, these are mature adults. They're women, and they can care for themselves and make good decisions. Whereas I have to make sure that these numpty boys keep in line." Right? That's my opinion. Again, Gospel of Zack.
I like the Gospel of Zack. That's all right for me. We used to get in trouble for our fringes. Do you remember when asymmetrical fringes were in, and we get in trouble because they wouldn't go behind our ears, or what Sister Vriens.
Yeah. If your hair was too long, she called you a Bratz doll. She was like, "You look like a Bratz doll. Cut your hair."
I remember once getting my jacket to his own conference. Oh, Like, I think I was this far away from like a whooping or something. I was in trouble. But I was with Sister Maylin at the time and we just laughed.
So she hated my boots. Do you remember I would wear boots?
Oh yes, your brown boots.
My brown
Did you have
boots.
black? Yeah.
I think, well, they wore out. So I had these brown boots and she hated them. Like, she hated them. Every time she saw me in them, she was like, you still have them? How come they're not in the bin yet? I was like, I'm not being funny, Sister Vriens, but if you want to go out in the snow and the sleet and the rain and wear shoes, be my guest. I'll give you a week before you ask for these boots. Like, anyway, so the zip broke on them. They did actually wear out in the end. And it was when I was in Edinburgh and I turned up to the mission home in shoes and she was like, they've gone. And she like rejoiced in it. And I was like, I'm suffering now in the flipping cold. And then a week later, my mum sent me another pair of boots, the black ones. And I walked in with them and she was like, oh no. What's wrong with boots? Yeah, but she hated the boots. But I had a few conditions of being on a mission and warm, dry feet was one of them. So
That's fair.
So yeah, no, I ended up with some weird chicken pox. That was another diversion. But it wasn't chicken pox. I think it was just overcautiousness, personally. But I enjoyed it. Who's next? Oh, Crookston in Edinburgh. That's right. Went to Edinburgh with Crookston. We can get into some juicy stories here. Yeah. So do you know what? I was a companion for the last 6 weeks, I think, or was it last 3 months? I don't know if it was 6 weeks or 3 months, but I was her last companion. And it was an absolute privilege to serve with her at the end. She was absolutely amazing. Like, she was just brilliant. And she was brilliant for me for some personal reasons as well. And so I'll always be grateful for her for that. But she was finishing her mission. And she this is the Bradley and Crookston story, if you want my take on it.
Yes, go.
Yes, okay. So there's details that might not be correct. So a disclaimer, I'm sorry if those details aren't correct. I guess Bradley or Crookston might need to come on and,
No, it's not a might. It's they need to come on. Come on and
they need to come on.
What Lizzy's going to say right now.
An epic episode.
It'd be amazing.
Yes, it would.
So here's my take on it. Okay, so we go to the last interviews, Crookston's last interviews at the mission home. And I had gone in first and came out, was having a little social in the mission home, chat. And she comes out and she literally passed me and is like, come on, let's go. She doesn't look up or anything. And it's like smoke's coming off her feet. And I'm like, well, I'm having a bit of chit chat in the mission home. We've got to go straight away. So I was like, I've got to go. Companions off. Left with her. And she was like marching home. She was on a mission. And I was like, oh gosh, something's up with Crookie. We used to call her Crookie, didn't we?
Crookie.
Anyway, so something was up. And she was just, what did we have next? I can't remember if it was a teach or something. What was it? Okay, this might be disjointed in its what came next, but I feel like she said to me, I think we went into a teach, I think, in the church, and I remember seeing, she wanted to get there early all of a sudden, and we walked into the church right next to the mission home, so we walked out and then in again. As we're walking in the window up there, is there a window up there? In my memory, there is. In the mission home, there's a window up at the above, there's Bradley and his companion Rolo, was it? Were they the APs at the time?
I think you're right, yeah.
Okay, so they were there in the window and I was like, oh look, there's Bradley and Rolo, giving them a wave. She didn't look up, she didn't acknowledge them at all. She was head down, she was like in, and I was thinking it's a bit rude. I was just waving, going, sorry, she's not waving today. Excuse my rude companion. She's not. She was not entertaining that. And we got in and we talked, and I think after the teach again, she was just like, we did the teach at the church, finished it up, wrapped it up, and then we were home and out the door. We were walking home and she said, so what did Preston say to you in your interview? And I was like, hang on a minute, clearly he said something to you based on that question. And I was like, I don't know, what did he say to you in your interview? And then she relayed, he said something like, I think, he'd said something to her, he's stirring the pot a little bit, intimated towards, there was a leader who really respects you and admires you and, you know, thinks is very fond of you. And it said something to that ilk to her in a final interview. And so she told me this, and I was like, what the heck is Preston playing at? I was like, why is he saying that to you? Like, you need that, but like last week's of your mission, you need that kind of crap coming at you. And so I was like, what's he playing at? Like, what an idiot. It's just like totally dissing Preston. Did not see what he could see clearly. And so I was like, why is he saying that to you? That's like such a silly thing to say. Like, and I was like, and who is it anyway? So I was working it out. Her brain had obviously already been ticking to work it out. I don't think at this point there'd been any thought, by the way, up until this point, till Preston put this in her head. And I was like, so who is it? A leader? One of your peers? I think he'd like dropped a few clues in. And then I remembered a T-book entry. So Bradley had done this amazing T-book entry in Crookston's, and I remember seeing it going, oh gosh, this is a really nice T-book entry. And I was like, it's really nice. Like, this is like one of the nicest T-book entries I've ever read. And then I was like, am I reading something personal? I'm not sure. Maybe I should stop. And it wasn't inappropriate or anything. It was just really, really nice. Like, it was really lovely, I thought. And I remembered that, and I went, Bradley? And she just went, I don't know. And I was like, is it Bradley? And then she was like, I think maybe, yeah. But I didn't, I was just like, well, still, why is Preston doing that? I mean, Bradley's going home. You're going home. Like, why is he stirring the pot? And then it was clear, like, if it had meant nothing, it could have been dropped. You would have just dropped that and been like, whatever. But there was something churning, like it was churning, it was ticking there. And I could see she was not right, basically, after that. We went home for lunch and she was just out of it. And I was like, hang on a minute. If she doesn't care about this, she wouldn't care. But something's going on internally here. And wow. So I said, are you so I remember saying something to her, seeing that and going, and I was like, are you, like, is this affecting you in some way? Like, is this something that is getting under your skin a bit? Like, and she was just like, no, like lying. She was, no. I was like, are you okay? She was like, I'm fine. And I was like, that is a person who is not fine at all. Like, she was really, she was in hell. Like, her brain was just like totally exploded on her. And we had some conversations, and I remember she had basically, she had that whole prejudice against someone meeting on their mission. And she was like, it's an absolute no. It's an absolute no. Like, she was just like cutting that down dead there and then. And I was like, well, why has President mentioned it to you then if it's an absolute no? Suddenly I was like, President had some wisdom, had some foresight in this, I don't know. And I was like, well, you're both going home. Like, you can at least get a free meal out of it and go on a date.
Nice.
But it was already there. There was already something happening anyway, because clearly she was bothered by it to the point where it was really getting to her. So we had some conversations, and I think I remember just saying, I think you just don't care what anyone thinks. And I was like, if people want to judge you, they'll judge you. If people want to make presumptions about you. Crookston was the most integral missionary, like, I think I ever served with, and like, she was just heart and soul brilliant, and in it to the point where she was so frustrated in her countdown to leaving, because she left right before Christmas. I think she left on like the 23rd or something, and everywhere had the countdown to Christmas. There were like shops that were counting down to Christmas, like 45 days to Christmas or 22 days to Christmas, and she'd get frustrated seeing that, because she didn't want to be told that she was going home. She didn't want someone counting down a mission. And she was just heart and soul brilliant. Like, she was brilliant. She was so creative. She made everything magical and gave it all this creative touch. And we got loads of creative projects with Crookston. I really enjoyed that, actually. But no, I did genuinely feel for her when President dropped that bomb on her, because it was really conflicting for her. But I think it's because there was subconsciously or consciously, I don't know, something was already there. Like there was something that was like, actually, yeah. The fight was clearly that, well, for me, that it was a consideration, but the fight was with herself, that she couldn't, entertain someone that she'd met on a mission. Like that was a no-go for her. But
Interesting.
but she got there. So yeah. And Bradley disappeared. So he went and became one of these sofa surfer missionaries who, sofa surfs the mission. So he disappeared. They didn't see each other again from that point. And he came and went home. So the next time they saw each other was probably when they were both home, because she didn't see him when she was with me, and then she went home. So
wow.
Preston dropped the bomb, literally, and then the rest was history.
And Elder Bradley was so worried about the reputation that he went and surfed sofas for the rest of his mission. Brother and sister Bradley, come on the podcast and tell us the true story.
Yeah, tell us. When was it for you? What moment?
Oh my gosh.
But they are,
that's too good.
They're lovely. Both of them are lovely. I definitely love hearing from them. And Crookston, she's like I don't know what it's called, but it's not origami, but it sounds like origami. It's like ammiragani. Like there's like a craft with like I'm not doing this justice at all. But she's like top of the field, like on Instagram, and people buy her books and stuff. She has books and patterns and stuff that she sells, and she has a book on Amazon of ammiragani or something. It's some like niche thing, like Japanese love it. And she crochets loads of little things with eyes and smiles. I'm so sorry.
Remind me your first name.
Buxton, can you come on and just clear this up so I'm not butchering your whole business? Yeah, she's really good at it. And anyway,
what's her first name? I don't remember her first name.
So Melissa. So it'll be Melissa Bradley.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna check it out.
And we taught Emma Riley, who I'm still in contact with, and had a lot to do with the Mansons, who were a significant family on my mission and still are now. I'm still in contact with Liz Manson, and they relate to the end of my mission as well, because I taught some of their family in Cooper as well. But that was a significant family for me, and still is. Emma, I'm still in touch with, in a sporadic ways. The Mansons, absolutely love them. Yeah, Edinburgh, I loved Edinburgh, and I actually, my heart changed towards the mission home, and the proximity to the mission home was good for me, for a lot of reasons. I had Christmas there, and we had Burns night as well. So Crookston goes home. Ralph as well. Do you remember Ralph Merron?
Of course.
Okay, what number
Absolutely.
were you? I was number 9. Did you get a number?
I was number 1. We found Ralph. We chapped his door. So we found Ralph, and Ralph was sad. He was sad, and he told us, if you can make me happy, I'll listen to you. And we asked him what was making him sad, and he'd explained how his wife had passed away and he was lonely. And I said, we can absolutely make you happy then. We have a message that will give you so much happiness. I promise you. And he made an appointment for us to come back. And of course, we were able to share with him right off the bat the plan of salvation. But then I left, you went back, and he was supposed to be being baptized, and he was not sure or something. And I came down for like a zone conference or something, and was allowed to go and visit Ralph with you, I think.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
We had this conversation, and we talked about it. I said, Ralph, why were we here in the first place? This was because your wife sent us. She needs you. She wants you to be sealed to you. And then, of course, to be able to witness him sealed to her after mission was just, incredible.
Yeah. So we did that with a few, didn't we? So Merron and I were at Jimmy's.
Yeah.
And
Gordon's endowment. Were you there for that?
I didn't know Gordon. I don't remember Gordon too much, so I don't know if I had much to do with him. But so you were number what? Yeah. Jimmy and Ralph. So Ralph would name the sister missionaries because he had so many, and he'd make this joke that he needs so many because of how bad he is. But Merron was number 1, and I was number 9. And so I was the last one that came in before he got baptized, and he got baptized, and then he numbered them and named them after that as well. So it carried on. But
Ralph,
he was
me and Sister McGowan.
Okay, yeah. So you're the legends. He was lovely. Oh gosh, I never had a granddad, but if I could wish for one, it would have been him. Like he just was everything, like tied up in a bow of what a granddad could be and would be. And he wrote to me, carried on writing to us, didn't he, and sending us stuff after our missions. And stuff. Lovely cards, lovely letters. Loved him. He has a funny story.
To the mission home on the day that we left, or the day before we left. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
He came, and I don't know about you, but he gave me a card with some money in, and he told me that the money was to buy flowers for my mum for sending me. Oh, what an amazing man he was.
Yeah, I loved him. Yeah, he was absolutely, he was something special. Really grateful to have been a part of that journey with Ralph. Yeah, he was.
And it did take a lot of us, didn't it? You know, it was. I think it's easier for the sisters in a way because there's so few of us that you get to share those stories a little more intimately with one another. And I think Ralph and Jimmy, during our time together, were certainly. They knew a lot of sisters, didn't they? In the end, and sometimes it's the sister's touch, isn't it? In fact, Jimmy, do you remember the? Oh no, Jimmy was Air. Or Sister Lewis. Okay, there was a great story there as well. Carry on.
We can get to that with mine.
You're still in Edinburgh.
Yeah, so bring your air stories when we're in air. So I am still in Edinburgh. Ralph. Yeah, Ralph. I loved Ralph. He was great. Let me have a look. Who came next after Crookston? I have got a story for Edinburgh, but maybe I'll bring it at the end because it's a Thanksgiving one. And isn't it Thanksgiving coming up soon? Okay. Yeah. Remind me to tell you the Thanksgiving story at the end as well then. So next was so I stayed in Edinburgh. Crookston went home and I got Cooper and we trained Bautista together. So me and Cooper trained Bautista for 6 weeks, and we had Christmas, New Year's, and then Burns night. I remember Burns night was really fun. Haggis was there, and it sounds like Haggis is a person. Haggis was there. Old pal. We dressed, I think it was Stanley was a good sport. Elder Stanley was a good sport, and we dressed him in the duvet covers, the mission duvet covers were like tartan, weren't they? I draped him in all these tartan. I think he might have been Robert Burns for the night for us. He's a good sport. I really liked Elder Stanley. He was a really lovely guy. So he was in the MTC with us, by the way, and so was
Ballard. He was MTC, wasn't he? Yeah.
And Ford was as well, wasn't
he?
Yeah. So after Cooper and Bautista, Burns night, okay. So it was in this 6 weeks that I got stuck up a chimney. Do you want that story now, or do you want it at the end? Now. Okay. So I sent you the photograph as well, so you can bring in some photographic evidence. And I found another one from the other angle as well. So
I'll overlay it on the video.
I need to put a disclaimer out there. Okay. Oh, you can do it afterwards, can you? With a bit of editing. Okay. So, if ever my kids ever listen to this, do not try anything like this at home, kids. Okay, because I do not need that on my kids. Oh my gosh. Oh, this was in the list of one of the stupidest things I've ever done. So, we go, I think it was Blackness Castle, I think it was, that we went on a zone activity to, and someone proposed we play sardines, and then I got chosen to be the first one to go and hide as the sardine. And I remember thinking, that's a bad choice. I'm a sister missionary. Like, what if elders find me first? Sorry, can't come in. So that wasn't thought through in and of itself, to be honest. Anyway, so I went and I'm looking around the castle, and it's just like, it wasn't like one of these like indoor castles. It was like an outdoor one where it wasn't like carpeted or anything. It was just bricks and brick floor and bricks walls. So I was like, there's nowhere to actually hide. It's just square rooms in every room. And I saw the chimney, the fireplace, of course. And I was like, well, is there anywhere in the fireplace I can hide? So I look up, and there's like a ledge on either side of this fireplace, where I guess the chimney shaft from below comes and joins that chimney, and then they go up and up and up. And so I climbed up onto the ledge of this where the shaft comes up, and I'm sitting on the ledge. And I think the first people that did actually find me and look up were elders. I don't remember who, but I said, you can't come in. You have to wait for the sisters to find me first before you can come in. I was like, you Cooper and Bautista have got to find me first, so you're going to have to loiter around until they come. And so eventually Cooper and Bautista came and they found me, and they came and sat on the ledge. But then more and more people came. And of course, the nature of sardines is they have to get in. So they were all coming up the chimney and sitting on the ledge. So to create room, because it was a big chimney space. It wasn't like a small thing. It was huge. It was a castle essentially. So to create some more space, I went, well, I'll just dangle myself down into the shaft. So I go down into the kind of the chimney shaft area, and I had my elbows here, but over the time and over the waiting, without realizing it, I sank lower and lower, and it got narrower and narrower. And then I remember thinking, oh, I don't even have to hold my arms because the chimney's holding me. There's a sign. And I was like, oh, I'm not holding my weight anymore. The chimney's got my weight. Great. And so I relaxed even more and just sank lower and lower without realizing it. Like, it was just, I was getting wedged in like a cork into a bottle, basically. And then, but you never think these things through. You never think what's going to happen next. And then basically, while I was in there, people were hearing whispers and talking from below. And I think I've got a feeling it was Fisher, who was like, someone's up there. So they're in the floor below hearing noises. They flashed it. They take a picture with their camera to flash it. I've got that one. You can't see, but they take a picture up the chimney, and my foot is just here. And because they used the camera to get the light to flash, they saw these 2 feet, and they were like, she's climbed up the chimney. So they thought I'd climbed up the chimney, up the chimney from below. So they then tried to climb up the chimney, and someone pulls on my leg. Like, I'm there in the chimney, I've got people around me here, and I feel someone pull my leg.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, I squealed. I'm like, someone's got my leg. And then there was like these muffled noises, like, and I was like, someone's below me. Oh my goodness, someone's going to go and tell them guys that I haven't climbed up the chimney. So they pulled, so I'm going to blame them, because they may well have done the damage as well of pulling me further in to that chimney.
Geez.
Anyway, it comes to the game's over. Everyone's found me. Everyone's found, and everyone's coming out. And I try and get out the chimney, and I can't, basically. And I'm going, but when you think, oh yeah, I can, let me just try again. And every effort I was making, like, the panic started to set in of like, I'm not moving. And it was because basically the way the chimney was holding me, I didn't have any body strength, so I didn't have anything to push against. And I didn't have my arms. They were like this now. So I didn't have any arm strength to kind of do this. So I'd lost I was no longer like that. I was like that. So,
oh my gosh.
So, there was no way to pull myself up. I didn't have the strength, I guess, to do it. And I was stuck. Like, I was stuck. And my hips were like wedged in between the rock, and panic starts to set in, because I'm like, I can't get out. This is crazy. I've got to get out. I can't get stuck in a chimney. This isn't happening. It's not happening. Don't worry, I'll get out. And everyone's going, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Cooper and Bautista try and help me. So they're trying to tug on me. and nothing's happening. I'm not moving. And I'm starting to panic a little bit, but I'm like, it's fine. I'll get out. It's okay. I'm still in the kind of like, we haven't tried that hard yet. So no one gets stuck up a chimney. I'm fine. I'll get out. I'm not stuck. And then I think I said, I need someone stronger. Can you get me someone stronger that can help pull me up? So I think Alec stepped up onto the ledge and tried to pull me out. But the problem was the ledge was here, and then the roof part would like concave in like this above you. So he had to like be hunched and he didn't have the space between the roof and the ledge to pull up. And he had a good tug, and he was like, I can't get you out, you're stuck. And he said it, and that's when I like started to kind of catastrophize it a little bit in my head. And I was like, even he thinks I'm stuck now, because I hadn't said it out loud. This was just happening in my head, but he was like, you're not moving, like you're not budging. And I was like, I know, but can you get me out, please? You've got to get me out now. Like, there's no messing around. Like, you just got to get me out. And in my head, I'm thinking, like, can you imagine, like, if a fire engine had to come and break down a castle to get someone out, assist a missionary? So I'm thinking, every Mormon's going to hate me because I'm going to give the Mormons a bad name. Every missionary's going to hate me because I'm going to give the mission a bad name. Every Scottish person's going to hate me for breaking their castle, their 15th century castle, 13th century castle. And I was just like, I'm going to give, like, all the Scottish members are going to hate me. Like, literally, like, the ramifications were just getting bigger and bigger. And I was like, I cannot be stuck in a chimney of this castle. Like, someone has to get me out before we have to get any extra help in. And so Balak, I think, thought, well, hang on a minute. He couldn't pull me up because he was getting hit in the ceiling. So he was like, you need someone shorter, but with the same strength. Step forward, Elder Aurelio. He was like short and stout.
I was going to say him, and I've never heard this story.
So he was he had the muscle power and the height, the appropriate height. So he got up there, and it was a few tugs in, and he was able to pull me out basically. But also, oh, do I share this? In that moment, I feel my silkies separate from my trousers. So my trousers are getting left in the chimney. And I'm sliding out of them. I just got both my arms. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is going from one disaster to another disaster. This is literally the worst day of my life. If I get pulled out in front of my zone like this, literally, I'm going to go home. I am not looking these people in the eyes. And so he's pulling me out. I don't know what to tell him. I was like, can you stop there? Can you stop now? I'm okay. Like, just stop. And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. Can you stop? So I got out enough, and I was like, I'll do it from here. Thank you. I'll do it from here. And basically, I had to like make myself decent before I climbed all the way out of the chimney. But
Aren't you glad? Aren't you glad that you wore silk that day? Because had you been wearing cotton, you might still be in that castle, right?
Precisely. Oh my goodness. Yeah, silkies all the way. Anyway.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny.
So I got out, was covered in soot, and I felt so embarrassed. I'm going to be honest. That was not one of those moments that I enjoyed. The whole like zone being there as I came out, I was just like, really, did everyone have to stand around waiting for this? Like, could you just not have gone on and done something else?
I'm just going to share real quick on the screen. This
so
is the picture that Lizzy sent me, and she's clearly not happy.
Oh my! There's a lot of people in that chimney.
I mean, you're just holding onto your camera and thinking, "What have I done?"
I was.
Oh,
I've been waiting.
Thinking, why did you do this?
I've been waiting months to hear this, and it's surpassed my expectation. The story.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, I'm glad to hear it, Jack. That's good.
So good.
Yeah, I try to forget it. I try to put that into the past, but it resurfaces every now and then.
Gosh, it's so good.
So that was somewhere around January, I think. Well, I was still in Edinburgh because I was still with Cooper and Bautista. I need to tell you this story from Edinburgh as well, and then we'll get to Ayr. So this was we were in, I think we were getting driven by Brownlow and Farnsworth, I can't remember where we were going, some kind of appointment, and there was me, Cooper, and Bautista in the back of the car. And where the car was on the road, Brownlow, I think, was driving. He indicated to turn right. So we slowed down to indicate to turn right. For some weird reason, the driver just totally blanked and decided at that moment to overtake. So Brownlow's turning right and this driver overtakes. And what happened next, I literally can't explain, because both cars bounced apart rather than like this car kind of pushing and plummeting. Our car into, I don't know, the side or a tree or a wall or something. They bounced separately. Like it was like, you know, two negative magnets that kind of repel. So they went like this and they bounced separately and like just went in opposite directions. And we got out the car and everything was, you know, dealt with. And we got back in the car. And I remember just thinking, what just happened? And I think Cooper was on my right and I was in the middle. I remember just thinking, why isn't Cooper dead? Why isn't Brownlow like in hospital right now? Because that car should have smashed right into both of them, into us. And one of the people in the car, I don't know who it was, but maybe Farnsworth or Brownlow, they were just like, did you guys just see that? Did you guys just see what happened? And we were like, yeah. And I think someone acknowledged, like, how are we alive? Like, how are we not harmed? How is the car in one piece? How is it not like barely scratched in that moment? And I always remember that because it was, for me, like, I don't know how to attribute how we came out of that the way we did, other than there was some divine help in that and some divine assistance in that. I can't explain it, and no one could explain it. The other guy couldn't explain it either, because he was so apologetic as well. He didn't understand why he did what he did, and what had happened, but equally just surprised at the outcome, that it didn't turn into something much worse. But that was, yeah, I always remember that, because I remember just thinking, that's not how this happens. That's not how a car crashes into a car. That's not the physics of what just happened isn't showing up here. So yeah, I always remember that. That was quite remarkable.
Wow, that is a miracle.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, get Brownlow on and Farnsworth on to tell them, ask them about that story.
They're both future guests.
Good. That's good. I like them. They're good. I like them a lot. Who's next? Oh, so Ayr. So then I went to Ayr with Lewis. So I got transferred to Ayr with Lewis. Jane Lewis, she was brilliant. Loved her. Absolutely loved her. Heart of gold. Felt like she was my friend and sister. As I say, I just got gold all along. I didn't say anything. So can I just retract, because I feel like I need to say something about Cooper and Bautista. I didn't say anything about them and I need to. Cooper was the most genteel, chilled out person I've ever met. Nothing could get her stressed. Nothing could make her flap. So that was such a nice common influence to be around. That real kind of concrete presence and nature. I really enjoyed her nature. It was very peaceful. And Bautista was absolutely cracked carrot. Loved her. Absolutely nuts in a brilliant way. But I was really grateful to serve with them two in a trio and have that experience with them. And Bautista, she drew. She was really talented with drawing. I remember she would draw. Yeah, she would draw a lot, actually. And she would write down people's names that we just met in the street. And I'd say, how come you're writing them down, even if they'd said no? She was, I'm going to pray for them still. And I was just like, that is so nice. I love that. Like, that was such a nice, like, the detail that she would go to. So I was really I really enjoyed those 6 weeks. I got stressy in those 6 weeks. I became that's where I became too stressy. I became a little bit too, the mission culture gets to you at some point, doesn't it? And I think I wasn't as relaxed as I could have been. I think I just needed to chill out, basically, and remember that, you know, it was the pressures, the kind of be a certain way, do a certain way, the kind of things that are riding on you. That's where I kind of became a little bit too dressed, Eric. So I went to Ayr with Lewis, and she chilled me out. She was brilliant. Absolutely loved her. We laughed and cried laughing so much as well. Jimmy was there, of course. Merron, we can chat about Jimmy here. I also remember Kathy and Maureen. They were quite prominent members of Air Ward that we spent a lot of time with as well.
Do you remember their dog?
The dog.
That could do that.
Yes, I do.
Opening the Tic Tacs, and they were so proud of that dog. Yeah. I wish I could remember its name actually, but yeah, we had the Christmas there. So you and I then swapped. When I left Air and went to Edinburgh, you came from Edinburgh to Air.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's when there was only like 5 of us.
Cooper, because then if you said you'd got quite stressy and a bit too mission, at that point, I was exactly the same. And those poor girls. Apologies. Apologies, sisters.
No. Oh gosh. Okay.
Isn't it funny what becomes so important? You think is so important, just such small, insignificant things, and then, gosh, if those were important things now, I'd just be laughing.
Yeah, I think that's what
so
I lost the ability to laugh. Like that's exactly it. Like there was so much I should just gone with and just laughed about. Like, and I didn't, and that was on me, not on anybody else. But yeah. Oh, sorry, Bautista. Sorry, Cooper. So Lewis. Got Jimmy down. Oh, so okay. So Lewis had, I hope I'm okay saying this and it's not too much information for Jane, but she had an intolerance to dairy when intolerances went thing. I don't know if you have any stories with this, Merron, but here's my story with it. Okay, so you share yours as well. So love Jane. So I've become a companion and she hacked. I've got to be careful. She would have to hack. If she'd had too much dairy, she would have to like cough it up in the morning, basically. Like it would become like on a chest. It would like get like phlegmy on her chest. And so she'd be in the shower coughing up. And I remember thinking, is this a eating disorder I'm dealing with? Turns out it was an intolerance. And she really would suffer with this, and intolerances weren't a thing, and people didn't get it, and people didn't take any notice with it. And she wasn't strong about it. She was just like, I can't really eat dairy. But that, like, it never really kind of, meant anything to a lot of people, and people would forget. And we turned up at Jimmy's house one time, and he bought us, specifically got and bought us a special treat. And this was this, like, cream cake. But it was the biggest like cream cake I'd ever seen in my life. It was like a cream bun. Did you get one?
Yes, no, almost every time we went there. Honestly, I lost weight when I first went on my mission. I went to Air and I got fat again. Just honestly, this is what my story with Sister Lewis involves as well, is the eating of a cream cake from Jimmy.
Okay, right. Okay, so I need to hear yours after this then. So I'm interested in yours now. So actually, he brings these cream cakes out, and I know now about this intolerance and how she suffers with it. And he goes to get the spoons. He goes to get something to eat it with, and she just looks at me and goes, and I just look at her and I know what this means. And I just take a cream cake and I inhale all of the cream out of the middle. This time. I just, literally suck this thing up, inhale it, and hand it back to her just in time as Jimmy walks back in the room with the forks. And she's sitting there with these two like bun ends, like all the cream's supposed to be in the middle. She's got these like bun ends in her hand, and she's just like, and he's like, oh, you started eating. He just said, oh, you started eating. She went, it was just so yummy. And he's like, just licked out the cream from these two sides. Anyway, and then he hands the forks to us, and I had to eat mine then as well. And she eats the ends of hers a little bit, I think. And we get out, and I feel so sick. I've eaten these two massive cream buns. And I feel so sick. I remember just feeling like I wanted to vomit for like the rest of that day. There was just, I couldn't eat for the rest of the day. It was just disgusting. Don't think I've been able to eat a cream bun since, to be honest. But yeah.
I don't know what it was about, because it was the old men, wasn't it? Because Jimmy would always feed us, and it was always like really sweet stuff. And Ralph as well. It was chocolate. He'd always have loads of chocolate there, loads of it. So my story. So we'd had one of these days, wonderful days, Sister Lewis and I, where we'd just been teach, and we hadn't had any lunch that day, and we were really hungry. And we got to Jimmy's in the evening. We'd always have Jimmy in the evening and then go home. And he had this, again, a cream cake for us, and it was one of those round Victoria sponges with loads of cream in the middle. And he wanted us to eat it there, and we just said, well, look, we're going to go home. Do you mind if we take it with us? And we got in the car, and knowing, obviously, Sister Lewis's intolerance, I was like, oh, you know, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to, you know, trade me for something or whatever? And she's, I'm so hungry. She takes out this this cream cake from the bag that it was in and bites into it like a burger in the car, like this, with the cream coming out everywhere. And we shared this massive cream cake on the way home, eating it like a burger. And it was like a really big thing, but she paid for it the next day with her intolerance, the poor girl. But we were so hungry. Yeah, let's finish your story. It's in a big burger cake.
Well, you served with her before me, so I think that is why she looked at me the way she did, because she clearly knew what that cream cake would do to her. Because she looked at me with dread. She just went. So she knew the damage it would do. Yeah. So we also. I don't know if I'm like throwing Lewis under the bus here, but come on and defend yourself.
Yeah, Jane, we'd love to have you.
Jane, come on.
Do you feel like we've invited on to throw down the gauntlet?
We've done what? Sorry.
Been invited on to throw down the gauntlet, tell stories so that other people have to come and defend themselves. Because I reckon bring a few more out of the closet, really.
Yeah, come out the woodwork.
Oh, I love it. You're setting a great precedence, that's for sure.
So I don't know what people will think of this, but so basically we had a really it's a nice experience. It becomes something else, but we had been asked to visit, I forget her name, but she was an elderly sister who'd been in hospital, and she was like, you know, one of these veteran members of our ward, and we'd been asked to go and visit her, and we went to get her a card, and we were looking at these two cards, which one to buy, and one clearly was suggesting, like, because we went to one of these like church shops to get the card to try and find one with like some kind of scriptural reference in it, and there was one that had like just a get well kind of message, and then there was one that clearly was, I think it said like, you know, as you get ready to come and I welcome you into my arms, or something like that. It was like this, it was like as if the Saviour was speaking, and he was going to like welcome her into her arms, and we were like, oh, this is really lovely, this is really beautiful. And then Jane was like, but it sounds like she's going to die. And I was like, oh yeah, it does. Okay, let's not get that one then. Let's get the get well one. And so we picked up the get well one, and we went to go away with it. And she was like, should we be getting the other one? And I was like, I think we should be. I feel like that's the one we should be getting, because we tried to walk to the till with it, and there was something niggling both of us to go and get the other one. And so we did. We were like, oh, but it's a nice card. We were justifying it. We were like, yeah, but it's the nicer message, isn't it? Yeah, it's the nicer message. So we did. We got that card. We went and visited this lady in the hospital and gave her the card. And we got the call that night that she died, basically an hour or two after we'd been there. And so we technically, yeah, were the last visitors. Well, there was family there, I suppose. But the funeral was lovely. We got invited to the funeral and were asked to be there and show our presence there as well. This is the thing with being a missionary, like the places that you end up at that I didn't expect to as a missionary. Like, yeah, so we were in this funeral, and the grandson of this lady was particularly handsome. And the line after the funeral is and the line after the funeral is coming along, and I'm chatting to Jane, and then you know that you kind of do the family line where you give the handshakes or whatever, except I'd totally forgotten British culture, of course. And we get to him, and he leans in and gives a kiss on the cheek. which I wasn't expecting. And I just, was like, oh, taken aback by it, said some nice things and moved on. Looked at Jane and she was like, stepping into it. She presents herself. And we went out and then we just like had to get away because we cracked up laughing. We were like, how nice was that? And she was like, best thing on mission. Best thing that's ever happened to us. We were like two little schoolgirls. It was so competitive. But yeah. It was so mature sisters. Yeah, we were really mature. So there's a bit of back noise. Is that happening with anybody else? Is it just me? No. Okay.
I can hear. I can hear a little bit. You're fine.
Okay. No, but anyway, I don't really have. We had some fun. There was a zone activity with Lewis as well, and they were doing capture the flag, but the location they chose, it wasn't great because you couldn't hide between anything. It was like an open field. And so me and Jane conspired, as all the elders were like trying to, run towards each other and dodge. We were like, no one's getting past. There's nothing to hide behind. We're not going to be able to get this flag. So we conspired to pretend that we were done with the game and we were bored. We were going to go shopping. So we just walked straight down the middle of the field, and some of the elders came and ran up to us and we were like, oh, we're not playing. We're so bored by this. We're going shopping. And we just walked straight to the opposite team's flag, picked it up and walked back.
Victory.
In plain sight. All in plain sight. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Kind of spoilt it as well because the game ended, so. But yeah. What's that?
I said, but then did you go shopping? Because if you did.
Yeah. No, I don't think we did, but it was good to mislead them. So Jane Lewis left. I think I only had her for 6 weeks. I got a lot of 6-week companions as well, Merron. I had lots of 6-week companions. Then I got you for 4.5 months, and my last companion, Sister Kemp, for 4.5 months as well. So Lewis went, and then I got Jagger trained again. So I was training for the second time. This is when a load of them came in at once. Like, who was the Hog? Garnham?
Hog,
Jagger.
Yeah.
And I know who did it because I found this the other day. I'll show it to you. McFarlane, my friend. Yeah. So Hannah McFarlane.
Right. Hannah.
She'd sent me this from the end. Yeah. So Hannah McFarlane, now Hannah Lau. We went way back. We were like, was one of my best friends from my friendship group. So we went quite far back into the teenage years, and she still is today. She lives about half an hour that way now because I've moved up north. But she sent me this when she was in the MTC to introduce me to the new sisters. So you see this? You see that? So she's got and then she points to each one. No, it's like a card with nuns with cigarettes on it, but she named every one of them. So she had Sister McFarlane, Sister Garnham, Sister Hogg, and who's the last one? Sister Jagger. Yeah, so she was introducing me to them all like this. So that was my introduction to them.
Do you remember how excited we were for those sisters to come? We spoke about them so excitedly before they arrived. Like, we were just so excited.
Because we got the news, hadn't we, that they were in the MTC, how many there were. And I think we all wrote to them and they all wrote back, which is why I think I have that. Because we were just like, there was 5 of us. There was 2 companionships in the whole mission. We were starved of like someone else to talk to and someone else to kind of like be with. Because, the connotation of being a sister missionary, who have you got to talk to? And you're with your companion and that's it. It's like, that was one of the toughest things, I think, about it. I don't think people appreciated that. Like, sometimes we just needed someone else to talk to outside of our companionship. basically, so Jagger came, Mick Jagger, I called her Mick Jagger. She came and I trained her. We had a great time. I was a bit like, they should have sent me McFarlane. Like, I should have got to serve with her. And I still feel like I should have got to serve with her. We made some splits happen, which was great. And I'm grateful for that. But I'm sure I don't know. I'm sure they were like, oh, we can't put them together. Because I think Midgley would have known that we would have been good friends. But I wonder if they were like, oh, we can't put them together because the friends or something, that'll be a distraction. I don't know. I never asked, but I always felt like I would have enjoyed serving with her. But I did get some splits with her. But the thing is, Jagger was like, she was absolutely back crazy, brilliant. And like, there was no one more distracting than Sarah Jagger. She was absolutely brilliant. She was so funny, so witty, just so out there, and we had an absolute ball together. And so I'm like, oh, if they didn't send me Hannah McFarlane because they didn't want me to, be distracted, and then they sent me Sarah Jagger instead, I was like, that was a wrong move, because our two personalities had too much fun together. I loved it because I felt like I'd been too nitpicky and too stressy when I trained Bautista. I swung the pendulum all the way the other way and decided I'm just going to let this person be who she is, and I'm not going to do any correction and nitpicking or anything. I didn't want to be that person. I didn't like myself when I was that person. And so she had full reign to be herself, and it was a brilliant self that she was. We had 7 with us. I think they had a trio there. I don't know, because these three elders, I think, were in air as well. So I think that might have been a new companionship, because I don't think there was any before. But it was a trio. It was Baird, Jensen, and Jones. You couldn't get 3 more different people. Like, they were so different. But we had some fun with them as well. They pranked us. They pranked our flat. They got the key off the district leader. I think it was Megna. And pranked our flat, which I was shocked about, because I was like, Megna keeps the rules. How dare he give them our key to our flat? I was like, Megna, you're down the line. I think I could be wrong, but I feel like it might have been him. It may not have been. But they pranked our flat. So I was like, well, we're not having that. Like, that's ridiculous. There's no way. We didn't realise they pranked our flat. The problem was they kind of hid the pranks. So we washed our hair with grease, for example, from the shampoo. And I remember sitting in district meeting going, I've washed my hair. Why is it still greasy? Like, why is it really oily? So there was things like that they did that we had no idea about, I think. And which, yeah, it's a bit crazy, because I was like, anyway, so that we were like, we can't let them get away with that. And so we actually pranked them back, which was, we made that quite epic, but tough luck. We just wanted it to end, and we wanted to be the last ones to do it. But we did have fun, maybe too much fun, who knows. But I really enjoyed serving with Sarah Jagger. She was a brilliant personality, really funny. People loved her, like, they just loved her. And she could just, like, she was so animated as well. Who was next? Yes. So then I served with, there is one story I can tell about Sarah Jagger. She came needing to learn to drive. So she could drive, but she was an area with a car. And so they gave her to me. I couldn't drive, she could. But she hadn't driven a British car before. I'd had some lessons before my mission. So I was like, oh, I can remember. I can just tell you the basics. I basically nearly killed her. And then we stopped the car quickly and went, I think we need a professional to do this. I'm not. I was like, I can't drive. Why am I trying to teach you to drive? I haven't even passed my test. Like, so nearly killed her in the first week, but she survived that. And then there was another experience with Sarah Jagger as well that I remember. And I think I actually learned this from you, Merron. Like, I think I learned this. I don't know, the boldness maybe from you. But she was GQing someone on the street, like talking to someone on the street. I was nearby talking to someone on the street, mine finished, and I was just watching and observing. and something kind of told me something isn't quite right here, something's not good here. And I walked over and I was listening, and his tone, the way he, for all intents and purposes, he was saying the right things, but his tone, there was something very undercutting and jibish about it, and I didn't like it. And so I just kind of said, sorry, what's happening here? I can't remember what I said. I said something like, what's going on here? And he said, oh, she's teaching me your message. And I went, no, she's not teaching it. Because he was asking some, like, the way he was poking, there was a real kind of, it had that, tone to it when they just wanted to stare and to interrogate, but there was something kind of, there was a tone of maliciousness there maybe. And I said, you're not. I said, she doesn't have to teach you anything. And he got his back up. That got his back up, basically. And he said, yeah, she's going to teach me your message, or you teach me. And I said, I'm not going to teach you anything. I said, I'm not teaching you that. And he said, yeah, you have to teach me. I've spoken to your people before, and you have to teach me this message, and I want you to teach me it now. And I said, I'm not teaching you nothing. And he said, why? And I went, and I just came out my mouth, like, talk about giving you the words and the time that you need them. I just said it. I just said, because I'm not throwing my pearls before swine. And he was like, it came out, given them in the moment. What's giving you in the moment is giving you in the moment. It wasn't me. Like, I just said it. I said, because I'm not throwing my pearls before swine. But I discerned enough to know that there was something unintegral about him. There was something unintegral about the way he was speaking to Sarah Jagger, especially, and then to me. I don't know if he had a weird fetish, something. I don't know what his story was, but everything said this guy's like, just get away from him. And I remembered saying that and turning away, and he was just absolutely appalled by it. And Sarah was like, "Is that okay to say that?" And I said, how did you feel when he was speaking to you? She was, not good. I went, exactly. I went, we don't have to entertain that kind of stuff. And I was like, I haven't come on a mission to entertain that. I haven't come on a mission to be insulted. And this message is too important for that. But I think I caught that boldness from you, to be honest, Merron. But I remember feeling what I felt in that moment and thinking, this isn't good, and I don't like this guy, and I need to get away from him. That's all I know.
Well done.
But yeah, I did enjoy. Well done. There was, I think discernment was, I don't know if you gut feeling, discernment, spirit. It was definitely something that did get refined over those 18 months. There were definitely some specific moments when you felt things about people and you knew things about people potentially. And that was definitely one of those moments. After Sarah Jagger, I went to Cooper. So opened up an area. So that was an area that wasn't previously open. So we were starting from total scratch. And this was how I spent my last 4.5 months, and it was a brilliant way to spend it. Like, just another stretch of the, legs there. So opened up this area, starting from scratch, training with Candy Kemp. So I took Candy Kemp up to Cooper, and we served there, and the Wrights were there, and that was a really significant family for me. So Jackie Wright was the sister of Liz Manson from Edinburgh, and they became really potentially the purpose why I was there, maybe in Cooper, but absolutely fell in love with that family. And by the end of those 4.5 months, Keith was baptised and Jackie was reactivated, and we were pretty much regularly in the home and teaching and stuff. And I loved, there was just a love that I had for them. Same as the Mansons, just felt like they were extended family in a lot of ways. Keith, who we were teaching, was deaf, so that was another stretch on teaching this deaf boy who's 12 years old. That called upon all of our creative kind of ways that we could teach him, engage him. So I absolutely loved that time in Cooper. Absolutely gorgeous area. That's the thing, wasn't it? All the areas were so beautiful. I felt like a lot of my areas were really beautiful as well. I think that's it. Kemp was lovely. So she she did. No, you wouldn't have served at the camp because I had it for our last 4.5 months. I didn't know what she was like after me because I was the first with her, but she was one of those personalities that beat herself up, self-criticised a lot, and I really empathise with that. She just was she just beat herself up with stuff, and it's quite hard to see sometimes because she was absolutely brilliant. The members loved her, our investigators loved her, old ladies loved her, like every single old lady she met. I think it was the Roland Cornish accent, they just totally warmed to her. But she would beat herself up, and that frustrated me because I just wanted her to see who she was and see how brilliantly she was, and yeah. But basically, because of that, because she could self-criticize, and I was getting to the end of my mission, and I think I got a call from, we'd bumped the car a couple of times, and I got a call from, I think it was DePold, and he phoned me up and said, in the next interviews or the next whatever zone conference or whatever was coming up, President wanted to just chat to you and your companion regarding the car and the car incidents or something like that. And I thought, oh no, because she was the driver, and I was like, no, I can't have someone talk to her because that will just be like, that could set off something else, and I'm at the end of my mission. I don't want any spanners in the works. I want to just sprint to the end, and you're gonna throw a spanner in the works. And so I literally like reacted there and then on the phone. I was like, no, and I was like, that's not happening. And nice. I think he was a little bit like stunned. And I was like, no, and I was like, sorry, the president can't talk to my companion. You can't talk to my companion. No chance. And I was like, she does not need any guilt, any shame, any feeling that. I knew she didn't need it. I knew what it would do to her. And I was like, look, he can talk to me. He can say what he wants to me. I'm not the driver. And I'm like, he can say what he wants to me. He's not saying nothing to my companion. And he was just like, okay. And put the phone down, and nothing else was said about it. And I actually never asked what he thought of me in that moment when I was like, no, you're not speaking to her. Tough luck. No one is speaking to her in that way. But yeah, I was like, no. And it was partly selfish because I was at the end of the mission, and I was like, no, I want every day to like mean and to be going somewhere with it. And so it was partly selfish. But yeah, that brings me pretty much to the end of my mission. Went to the mission home with Merron. That was lovely because we'd served 4.5 months together, and then we finished together as well. And I really loved finishing with Merron and going up Pratt's Hill with Merron. The APs were Hewlett and DePold, and they'd served around me quite a bit. And because we had the Fredrick, so the Vriens had gone like 6 weeks before, so we'd only had the Fredricks for 6 weeks, maybe 3 months, I can't remember. So I didn't have any real relationship with them. So it was nice to finish it with Merron, and DePold and Hewlett both served around me quite a lot, and I have a lot of love for them. So I felt like I was finishing it with family. I think Megna was there as well. So it was nice that all of these, I'd served around all of them in the kind of significant amounts to kind of feel like I was like everyone I knew, everyone I was finishing there with, I kind of knew around me. So that was a really nice feeling to have, I think, at the end of my mission. But yeah, that's it.
So your parents came to the mission home. I remember that, and of course I'd met your mum in years previous. And I remember sort of hovering around while your parents were there thinking, oh, just come and say hello. And your mum was just lovely, and she just came and gave me this big hug and, said thank you for serving with you and things. And I was like, it's totally my pleasure. It was brilliant. Absolutely loved the time we spent together. But do you remember the day before? Because I think we did like an overnight in the mission home. But the day before, we went into Edinburgh. Well, before we left, we said, give us all the Books of Mormon we can pack into one bag. And we took our bags packed full of Books of Mormon and just said, let's go and give them all away. And we walked from the mission home into Edinburgh city centre, just chatting to anybody who would talk to us and just look, this, will you read this book? And giving away all these Books of Mormon. And then I remember you had one left or something. You're like, I've got to give this away. And we were down by the bus stops where the Scots Monument is, and you were speaking to this guy for quite a while before you gave away that last Book of Mormon. And I think, like, in that moment when we'd done that, because we were going out, looking for souvenirs or something for our families, but we'd done that, I felt like really sad. I felt sad at the whole situation, that this is the end of it all. We've done this, and like almost, God, why weren't we doing this all along? Why wasn't I feeling this all along, of all of these Books of Mormon, and packing my bag every day so full and things like that? But for me, that time, that couple of days we had was really, it was like slow-mo almost, because the feelings were so intense, and just knowing it was all coming to an end.
Well, for me, it was like, just need to hold on to every last like minute and feeling of it, and just I didn't want it to slip through my hands at all. Like, I remember it just, it was quite an emotive time for me. The end of my mission, and even getting home and having to take that badge off was quite emotive. But I do remember that feeling of just wanting to hold on to everything that I could as it ended. I did. There's no doubt about it. I absolutely loved my mission. Absolutely loved it, and I loved everyone I served with. I feel like I won the lottery with every companion, to be honest, and was grateful for the tough times as well, and what they how they shaped you and made you, and what they did to you. I'm really. I mean, everyone, I'm sure, says this, but it was just that really just tangible feeling of just being concerned about everyone else around you and not yourself. Loved that. Definitely loved it. Yeah. Forgetting yourself, basically, having to forget yourself constantly.
Wow.
That's great.
Thank you so much. I would be remiss if I don't ask you, Lizzy. So after your mission, tell us a brief synopsis of what life's been like since then.
I got home. I worked in the MTC. That was fun. I got married in 2009. I have 3 kids. I got pregnant. I had 3 kids. Terrible pregnancies. Didn't enjoy them at all. I got really sick. I didn't make it to Merron's wedding because I was thrown up on the side of a motorway.
Oh no.
So,
I'm nearly forgiven me. Nearly.
Yeah, no, I haven't forgiven me. Anthony was like, I don't think you're going to make it to the wedding. I was like, I'm making it to this wedding. I'm going to this wedding. So I didn't stop throwing up. I was thrown up in the shower and everything. And he had to keep pulling over because the car stank. It's just like, I don't think we're going to this wedding. He goes, we are going to this wedding. Oh, I missed it. I missed the wedding.
We had that mission reunion about a month later. Do you remember? And you got to the reunion and you stayed at my place.
Barely.
We had that with Lewis and her husband as well. And we had that sort of overnight stay. It was really fun. You were so sick, you poor thing.
I know. I had that. Kate Middleton made it famous, didn't she? Hyperemesis. But yeah, I had it before Kate Middleton. So I had it first, Kate. So I had 3 kids. We lived London for about London and West London, a little bit further suburbs, for about the first 12 years of our marriage till about 2021. My husband's business nosedived in quite a significant way, so we had to do something drastic, and we sold our house and we went traveling in a motorhome for a year all over Europe. Amazing. Absolutely would recommend it to everyone. Pick a year, go and do it, and met all of the other families that were doing it under every situation and circumstance. So I wouldn't take any excuses anymore, because everyone will say it's not an ideal time, but if you can make that happen, make it happen. It was just absolutely brilliant for us. Came back and we have resettled about a month ago up here in Buxton in the north of England. It's kind of like, I guess, middle north of England in the Peak District. small town. But after traveling, we'd always been like city addicts, and after traveling, we wanted to be a little bit more nature based and have the hills. And it's beautiful around here, which is nice. That's it really. I've done some jobs, worked in film and worked for independent film and media companies, developing content. Yeah, that's me. That's it. That's my brief synopsis.
What ages are your children?
Currently 12, will be 13 in January, and then 11. My daughter just turned 11. So I've got a son who's 12, a daughter who just turned 11, and a daughter who is 8 as well. Yeah.
Great.
Awesome.
Don't know if there's anything else to say. That's it really. With the afterlife after a mission. Quickly. Yeah.
I'm going to sound like the biggest American. Buxton. What's the name of the town?
Buxton. Yeah, so Buxton, and there's a mineral water, but you wouldn't have got it in Scotland because it was always the Highlands mineral water, wasn't it? But Buxton's like this bottled mineral water, and there's like a fountain down in the town, and you can fill it up with mineral water. And engraved or like carved into this stone fountain, because it's like this ancient fountain with mineral water coming out of it, it says something about living waters. These are living waters. It says something about living water. It sounds scriptural. Just butchered that one, didn't I? So it's called Buxton, Buxton. It's in the Peak District, which is like the middle dark green area of England.
Okay,
yeah.
It's your Liverpudlian accent that got me. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
And Merron, you and your family live where?
So we now live on the south coast. We are in a ward called Worthing, but we live in a very small village north of Worthing called West Chiltington. We are so remote that there are no streetlights on where we live.
Wow, very nice.
But it's a lovely place to raise children.
I love it. Wow. Time flies when you're having fun. Thank you.
Merron, can you tell me some of your stories?
Lizzy, we've been going for 2 hours.
What? I know.
I have lots of stories, but I wanted to Okay, all right.
That I've said too much and you haven't said enough.
Can I just say though that I've loved listening to your stories, and when I was listening to them, I thought, gosh, I've been so brief in what I said, and so just I haven't really indulged much of the feeling about it all. And there are many, many stories, and I feel like there are things that happen day to day, and it sort of sparks a memory of something that happened, and I think yes. And I loved how you said something great about each of your companions, and I also feel very blessed by each of my companionships. And certainly know, and President used to tell us this all the time, that it was preparing us for marriage, and it totally does. But I just have to say, men are different creatures. I mean, women talk about feelings anyway. So it did and it didn't. So anyway, but one story I was thinking of that I did want to tell while you were telling yours, and it was that card that Hannah had sent you when she was in the MTC of the smoking nuns, was when Sister Maylin and I dressed up as nuns for Halloween, and up like an old skirt of mine and made habits out of it and stuff. And I have pictures of it. We had interviews that day, and we went from Montrose down to Dundee dressed as nuns and got these looks. So we rocked up there, President's on the steps of the bigger chapel at Dundee, and I just remember him seeing us step out the car, and he just shakes his head and turns and goes inside. And we just kept him on the whole time. It was brilliant. That's the thing people always ask you when you're a sister missionary: are you a nun? And we'd be like, kind of. So we were, and we kept them on. We went back to Montrose, and then we went round some members. So the Stewart family, the family who lived in the caravans, we knocked on their door, and they didn't recognise us at first. It was dark outside, but then invited us in, and then their mum, the mum of the family, recognised us and started laughing. The dad was elsewhere, and she said, "Oh, you've got to, you know, rope him in on this." So we sat there, kind of heads down, and he came in and we put on these Irish accents and just said, "We wanted to come and tell you about God. Would you be willing to listen?" And he was like, "Yep, yep, oh, yep, sure, yep. We go to church, yep, yep." So we start going. It takes him ages to clock on that it's us, but yeah, these outfits were pretty impressive, I think, from what I remember.
That's amazing.
I think I remember seeing a picture of that at some point. It was too good. Oh man.
Yeah, Malin and Roberts together. That's another thing. You know, when you got like the wrong personalities together, like Malin and Roberts, that's a concoction for. That's a cocktail. For,
I do think we had to sort of fight very hard against the inclination to just crank our way through however long we had together. I think it was only 6 weeks, but it was very hard. And it also made me think as well of when we got the new influx of sisters, we had an epic sisters weekend in Perth.
Yeah,
and
we did. Yeah,
I can't remember who I was serving with at the time, whether it was Garnham or Georgieva. I can't remember who it was, but we came down and it was like cellophane over the toilet seat. It was silly string. There was all sorts of stuff. And of course, you were used to my antics, right? And you started on, because, okay, we had this thing between us that you'd always say I was bullying you, right?
Yeah, she was. She did. She bullied me.
Constantly pranking her. She'd be like, "You're bullying me, you're bullying me." So she brought this kind of rhetoric into this sisters thing, and they were like really thinking that I was some kind of bully. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just pranking you. Have I gone too far? Have I gone too far? But yeah, it was a lot of fun together, wasn't it?
It was amazing. I do have the Thanksgiving story, but if you want, you can do it separate and just release it at Thanksgiving if you want, and then you can just chop this up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is Jack? Have you guys got to go?
No, he may have just stepped away for a minute, but you're fine. Carry on.
Okay, all right. So Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving, by the way. It's coming up, isn't it? We were in Edinburgh, and Crookston had decided we wanted to have Thanksgiving for a zone activity. And so she went and asked President if we could move the P Day from Tuesday to Thursday on that week. So it was actually on Thanksgiving. And then she planned to a T this amazing Thanksgiving meal, but she handed and delegated out to all of the companionships what they had to bring for this Thanksgiving meal. And so everyone was bringing something from the zone. And Bautista, like lovely Bautista, like you think nothing can break him. I found his tipping point. So he rings me up, and I'm like, Bautista, like the most patient, charitable, loving guy. He rings me up and he's like, "Sister Kenny, what's all this about Thanksgiving dinner?" I was like, "It's an American holiday. That's what they're doing." And he's like, "Have you seen the menu? Have you seen what's on the menu?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Pie." He said, "Pies for dessert." And I was like, "Yeah, look, I know it's not my go-to dessert either, but they say it's really good. They say they're nice. They say they sound like," he's like, "Pumpkin pie." And I'm like, "Yeah, Crookston assures me it's really nice." And he's like, no. He's like, he'd been asked to bring a pie, I think. And he was like, "I'm not bringing a pie." And I was like, "Oh gosh, I don't think you should like rock the boat on another country's holiday." Like, it's not our tradition to play with. And
pumpkin pie.
Exactly. And I was like, "It's not our tradition to play with." And he says, "I'm not bringing pie. I'm bringing a Swedish dessert. That's what I'm bringing." And I remember thinking, "Oh, hang on a minute. Crookston's been quite specific with this, and he's going rogue." And I was like, "Well, you're gonna have to tell Crookston yourself. I'm not telling her." And he was like, He was like, so anyway, so he off he goes, and then Thanksgiving comes, and I remember Buckner shows up with a bowl of jelly, quite frankly, and he was down. I had the list of who people were down for, and he was down for salad, and I said, "What's that?" And he goes, "The salad." I went, "That's not a salad." And I said, "What have you done?" And I was like, and Crookston was like, running this like a militant like mission. And I said, "She asked for salad. You've got to go and get yourself a green lettuce now. Go get yourself an iceberg. Take anyone. Doesn't have to be your companion. Get down the shop. Get yourself an iceberg. Get yourself a cucumber and come back." And he was like, "What? This is a salad. I've brought a salad." He said, "This is my mum's recipe." And I was like, "What is that? That's not a salad. What are you on about?" And so then Crookston comes along, because I'm thinking Crookston's going to blow if she sees this. She's going to be like, "This is it. It's disaster. It's over." And I'm dramatising it, but she comes over and she's like, "Oh, the salad, thank you," and takes it. And I was just left scratching my head, because, of course, you Americans, you like your jelly, don't you, as your salad? Anyway, and then I think it was Clausen shows up, and he's flapping this packet of Paxo stuffing at me. And I said, and he goes, "There you go, here's your stuffing." And I went, "It's not made." He said, "Oh, I thought you just sprinkled it on the dinner." And I said, "No, you're supposed to make the stuff." It's like,
oh my word.
Anyway, I absolutely loved it. It was brilliant. And what's his name? Bautista, come dessert time, Bautista made everybody wait for the pies, and they all had a Swedish dessert that they had to eat first. And I think he brought Swedish meatballs as well for the main. He had that to your roast dinner. But he made everyone have this Swedish, like, I think it was a scone basically, but yeah, I always remember that. And I loved that Thanksgiving. That was my first Thanksgiving, probably my best one I've ever had, maybe my only one. I've had a few others since then, but that was definitely my first and my favorite Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. That's that's perfect, because this will be produced and ready the week of Thanksgiving, so it'll work perfect. You had the foresight. Well done. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here to share your stories, share your thoughts, share your love. Merron, you said at the beginning, I don't think I'm going to remember too much, and you remembered a lot. I'm very impressed.
Thanks. Still, if I oil it up, it works every now and again. Having children, you give birth to brain cells, you lose them, you never get them back.
That was my next point, is you have 5 little ones. I'm sure that they took a lot of that, so you did fine. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll speak for Jack, and I'll let you guys both go, but we love you both. We are so grateful that we can call you our sisters in Scotland, and that we had the opportunity and the privilege to spend some time with you. Obviously, it wasn't nearly as much as we could have spent, because, the dynamic of the boys versus the girls, the elders, the sisters in the mission, was always a hard dynamic to find a balance with. But nevertheless, you were both amazing and influential in the people that you served and the people that knew you. You have the reputation of amazing sister missionaries and just wonderful people. So thank you so much for being who you are, allowing me to share 18 months of your life with you. It was great then, and it's great to reminisce and to hear all your stories too. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having us. Yeah, and Jack, and Jack's not here at the moment, but give our love to Jack, and thanks both of you for doing this. Jack's there still. Thanks both. Thanks for doing this. It's been really lovely listening to other people's podcasts and hearing who they are and how they are and stuff as well. So
knowing those feelings of, this was how many years ago, 15, 17, whatever years ago, and just seeing familiar faces and speaking about these things. It's such a precious time in our lives, even if our lives have evolved and moved forwards in different ways, that when we come back to this, it's the love that, you feel for your fellow missionaries, knowing that you were serving together at the same time is just something really unique, isn't it? It's lovely to be reminded of it. So thank you.
No, absolutely. And honestly, kudos to you for responding to messages and to, because there are others that I'm sure look at it and be like, crazy Zack Hewlett's at it again, but I appreciate you both responding and being willing to participate. And I know that we haven't had a whole lot of sister missionaries on the podcast yet, but I think that having the two of you as the true rock stars that you are on the podcast will help more of them come out of the woodwork and be willing to participate in the future. So don't hesitate to share this, to refer them to us, because honestly, that's the way that stuff tends to get in front of people a little bit easier nowadays, is when we share it with those that we love. So
and again, also, I mean, if you tell them like that, there's the incentive of I'll come on with certain conditions. Thank you for bringing the red in tonight. The holy attire that you're wearing. It's not been lost. So if you do want to come on, Zack and Jack do respond to conditions. So you can ask for things.
and plus you're all going to have to defend yourselves against Sister Kenny's stories. So.
Oh gosh, I to be honest, people shouldn't come on because there's worse stories that could come out.
But that's the beauty of this particular podcast. It's the truth according to the both of you, and it can be refuted in the future, but it requires participation. And so that's the key. We love it. It draws people out. It makes them think about those memories and then respond accordingly, right?
Yeah.
Well, again,
thanks so much.
Yeah, we love you both.
You,
hope you have a great holiday and a Merry Christmas coming up, and we'll certainly be in touch more and more. So thank you again.
Lots of love, guys.
Thanks.
It's been lovely. Love yous. Take
All right,
care.
Then. All right,
Bye, guys.
See ya.